Right.
It's Tuesday, yeah. And we're gonna have a tackle talk, yeah, about the freaking buzzbait. You know why? Because the buzzbait is the best bait that you've ever seen. And on Thursday, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna kick your ass on buzzbait, yeah. Because every Thursday, Ranger Ramon #1, we're gonna go out there, we're gonna catch 3 fish, and we're gonna kick your ass every single Thursday, yeah. Because at the end of the day, there ain't nothing you can do to stop us. Yeah.
All right, that's all I got. My face is turned red.
So, Tackle Talk Tuesday, brought to you by Vince McMahon.
And Randy
it's
Savage.
sponsored by Slim Jim, apparently.
That's right. Oh, my goodness.
It's another episode of Bass and Beer Radio, guys. Welcome to Tackle Talk Tuesdays with our signature promo from co-host Tony Schultz.
No, it's Tony Randy Savage.
Definitely knocked it out of the park right there.
Ranger Ramon.
Ranger Ramon.
Yeah. So tonight we're gonna talk. What was that?
Buzzbaits.
We're gonna talk about buzzbaits, baby.
Buzzbait.
The buzz of the bait.
What is the buzz about the buzzbait?
What's
I guess
the-
we're going to
what's
talk
the buzz about
all
the buzz?
Is the buzz the word?
The birds.
Well,
Buzz.
Oh,
the
so
buzz
it's
is
the
coming. The buzz is coming. We're going to get buzzed while we talk about the buzz of the buzzbait.
The
For those of you
buzz
that were-
of the buzz of the buzz.
I would say the funnest way ever to catch a bass. Frogging's pretty close, but the buzzbait's pretty freaking addictive.
I will say,
The pen just exploded.
It's like a buzzbait when a
Your
bass
own
hits
grip strength is just
Buzzbait?
unknown.
Nitro World Order.
a buzzbait's probably
There's a story behind that.
I don't know if I want to know.
It's funny. It's funny.
Okay, Paul.
So you're right, Rob. A buzzbait's probably one of my favorite ways to catch.
So
bass.
a couple things that we're going to talk
Or
about
just
tonight.
interrupt me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were done. I thought you were done.
Paul was saying how a
This is a
buzzbait.
great episode.
And
Different
so
ways
a
to
buzzbait.
find. I like your
So
glasses.
as I was saying, a buzzbait's probably one of my favorite ways to catch a bass, and it is something that I fish almost year round, from May until October, and it's always have one tied on. And we're gonna go into the details of buzzbait. So Tony, what are we gonna talk about tonight?
So a couple things. Sorry to cut you off again. A couple things
God,
that
you
I have.
suck.
I know, I'm sorry.
What's up, Brian?
A couple things that we have on in the hole tonight for the buzzbaits. Just a couple notes I've jotted down so far. We're going to talk about clackers because I think that's it's not its own buzzbait, but it's a subsection that deserves its own kind of topic. Skirts versus trailers, sizes and colors, and then I think we can put down here now that my pen's destroyed. Retrieve speed without giving up too much
Dude,
juice.
every
of course.
buzzbait has a different tone.
Sound. So the main things with buzzbaits: size, sound, and color. Those are your 3 main things with a buzzbait. So what do you want to talk about first?
So the first thing we have on here is the clacker, and I guess I'll start off by kind of giving what I know of what is when you're supposed to use them, when you're not. So to my understanding, and a lot of this is based off nice. A lot of these is based off wired to fish videos, things like that I've seen kind of coming in and out. Is the clacker buzzbait is specifically designed to target fish that are extra shallow. It's really used during the spawn a lot more. Like Greg Hackney has a really good video on wired to fish talking about when he uses a buzzbait and specifically when he uses a clacker. Now, obviously it's Florida, so it's a little bit different, but a lot of guys, when they say, hey, we're going to use a clacker, it has a lot to do with the springtime. You know, you have fish that are territorial, that extra sound gets them a little agitated and they strike it out of more of a reaction versus an eating thing.
Aggression.
Go ahead, Paul, because
So
I know you have a lot to say on this.
That would be one of the times that you're going to fish a clacker when fish are aggressive. The other time you want to fish a clacker is dirty water. Yeah, when you want to make a little more noise. And there are a couple of different kinds of clackers. So you have when we're talking about clackers, it's something on the bait. So let's see if I can get this a little closer.
Here's a good example too, bro.
So this is one style of clacker. This is a Picasso, and it just has a metal sleeve that's on the wires. It's a little hard to see there. Let's see if I can get a little closer there. So there's just a metal sleeve on the wire that the blade's going to hit. And that's all a clacker is. It's just something that the blade's hitting to make a little bit of extra sound. This is a jackal firecracker. You can see it's got a little spinny blade right here.
It is the loudest buzzbait ever made.
Yeah,
Blade hits
very
it.
much.
If we could get a little closer, which we can, you can see that this blade is tore up from hitting this little blade here. I mean, it definitely is going to hit it and make a lot of noise.
It is the loudest buzzbait.
You have other ones that have the clacker here, where it's just
The
like, you'll see
booyah.
like a booyah. Yeah, it has a little
Yeah.
triangular piece that's right here, and the blade hits it every time it spins. And they're just going to give you more sound. And you want to fish those, like Tony said, when the fish are more aggressive. As the year goes on and fishing pressure comes up, you're going to want to kind of steer away from the clacker. But
More like now.
dirty water during the spawn, pre-spawn actually. I would say pre-spawn. A clacker, buzzbait, something that makes a lot of noise. Those fish are territorial and they're going to eat it. Muddy water, you just want that little bit of extra sound because it's going to help them locate it. So those are the two scenarios that I fish a clacker buzzbait. As I was saying earlier, I fish a buzzbait a lot. It's one of my favorite ways to fish. I throw them almost year round, like I said, May to October. And there's different scenarios that you're going to run into where you're going to throw different kinds of buzzbaits, different sizes of buzzbaits, and we're going to talk about that
Would
tonight.
you agree, Paul? So I have told some people that have got into bass fishing later, and they're new to it. I'm like, dude, if you catch one like a buzzbait, you're going to be hooked the rest of your that bite that's like one of a frog,
It's
a buzzbait,
in comparison to a
top
frog bite.
Yeah, it's like once you catch
Anything
one
top
like that,
Yeah, anything top water.
you want that bite again. Like you strive for
I can't wait to
that,
go
man.
catch some smallies on top water next week.
Yeah, can't wait for a good buzzbait bite. It's almost.
So Paul had an interesting comment. I kind of want to touch on that briefly. So I went out and fished this last weekend. We spent a lot of time up in the Susquehanna River, not on Conowingo, but below the dam. We decided to go up there and try some new things. So if you want just couple little things that you look for in a buzzbait when specifically targeting smallmouth. Like, is there a difference? Are you throwing the same buzzbait? Is it not something you throw for smallmouth?
I would say a smaller buzzbait.
Different
Smaller
profile.
So
I think we all just agreed on that.
it's just a smaller profile. Typically, if you think about, in most cases, I will say most cases when you're fishing for smallmouth, you want to downsize your bait a little bit. Think of just the logistics of it. They have a smaller mouth.
Right.
They'll hit a frog. Like I've caught smallmouth on frogs. I've caught smallmouth on spur popping frogs. I've caught smallmouth on half-ounce buzzbaits. They'll eat it, but your hookup ratio is just not going to be as great because they don't have that big mouth to suck this whole bait in.
Right.
So they got to hit it just right for you to be able to hook them up on it. So if I'm throwing a buzzbait for smallmouth, there's two things that I'm generally going to throw. I'm going to throw a smaller profile, something like a 1/4 ounce buzzbait, and it's always going to be baitfish color. 100% of the time, I will not throw a black. I will not throw a black butt. Yeah, skirt, blade color. We'll talk about blade color when we talk about color, but for smallmouth, 100% of the time, I'm throwing a baitfish colored bait because if they're eating a buzzbait, they're probably that's what they're keying in on.
They're focused
So
on that.
in clearer smallmouth waters, would you go silver blade or a painted blade?
That depends on how much light you have.
Right.
So a lot like we talked about with spinner baits,
Mm-hmm.
that determines what color blade that I throw in for the most part. So if it's bright and sunny out, I'm going to throw a silver or gold blade, something with a little bit of flash.
Bit of flash.
If it's cloudy, I'm going to throw a painted blade. I mean, that's just kind of how I determine it. I try to keep that's a really detailed oriented question.
Right.
The biggest piece of advice that I can give for anybody that wants to fish buzzbaits is keep it simple.
What do you think, Joe? Painted blade?
I'll be real honest with you. I really don't have a ton of experience on buzzbaits. And full disclosure, the first fish I ever caught on a buzzbait was in this 2021 solstice.
Really?
Sure. You know why? Because it just looked like it was something I should be throwing that day, and I tied it on and started calf scent and caught fish on it.
He texted me
Amazing.
after the tournament. I caught a fish on a buzzbait.
Yeah.
Really?
Swear to God.
Oh wow!
Swear to God. So
Hey,
my experience on buzzbaits is somewhat limited. I have a preference for what limited experience I do have, and I guess we can get into that a little bit, particularly when we talk about skirts versus trailers. But yeah, I'm kind of going to be taking a little bit of a backseat on this episode, unless you guys want some more WWE promos, because
of course.
this is this whole episode is just me learning from
So
you three on this.
You're not a buzzbait guy at all.
I love throwing a buzzbait.
Well,
I've
yeah.
since gotten into it, and I've caught a lot of fish this year on
It's
buzzbait.
addictive.
I need to widen my perspective on it because
So,
I
Mark,
definitely have a limited
Let me,
perspective.
I just want to
I
Let's,
have
clarify.
not-
let's
Martin.
answer Martin's question.
I
Martin, is the Jackal Gargle, is that the new real compact buzzbait that they just came out with?
Yeah, I know. I'm not familiar with it. I don't know. You ever use a
Didn't
stinger hook on a
Z-Man come out
buzzbait?
with like a finesse
No,
buzzbait?
Deborah. I use a stinger hook on my spinner baits, never on my buzzbait.
I'll use the trailer hook on my buzzbaits,
I
and it
never-
has definitely saved me.
I mean, you can't go wrong.
I do the same
what's,
thing.
What's the downfall of not using one?
I do it with spinner baits.
Grass.
I
always.
just don't. I don't throw a buzzbait.
Same thing.
that
Again,
much.
a lot of. Yeah, Martin, I saw that at Susquehanna Fishing Tackle last week. I haven't got a chance to use it, but I am definitely going to pick a couple of those up because that is right up my alley.
What's it called? The
The
jackal.
Jackal Gargle. It's a
Jackal
super small buzzbait.
Say that
It's real
real
compact.
what? Jackal gargle.
Right.
Martin said. he
Martin
was
said
not
So
impressed
as
with
far as stinger hooks go, I go back to the same. If we can go back, go back to our spinnerbait episode.
it. There's
I said
no
the same
downfall
thing.
to not using one.
They get hung more.
You're
You're gonna,
Fine,
you're
okay,
gonna catch
okay.
more grass. You're gonna get more hang-ups.
So,
with the stinger.
Okay, good point.
100%.
Good point.
Same thing I said with spinnerbaits. I will only throw a trailer hook if they start short striking.
Now I always use a trailer hook on my spinner baits.
No,
Always.
only if they're short striking.
I never fish a spinner bait without.
Because I throw a spinnerbait and a buzzbait into garbage, and if you have a trailer hook on it, the stuff that I throw it into, it's not coming out.
I will, but I can. Well, have my ways, but I always use a trailer hook just because so many short strikes that I always feel like if I don't have if I miss one, I'll be like, damn, I should have had a trailer hook on it.
So it
So
goes back to again, going back to the spinnerbait conversation, same thing that I said. If you're getting short strikes on a buzzbait, change color.
Right.
As
True.
with as with
I
the
said that-
frogs and everything, change the color. Short stripes.
That's the first thing we
color
try.
thing.
Change color.
Now there are days.
Now, if you catch a fish,
There's days, there's days that changing the color doesn't work, and they're just, they're nipping at that, say it's that white spinnerbait or that white buzzbait, and that's the only thing they'll bite. Then yeah, throw a trailer hook on.
But
You
they-
can throw a trailer hook on a buzzbait just like you can for, just like you can for spinnerbait. Same style of hook, it still works. Just remember, it's going to get hung up more, and a lot of it depends on the cover that you're fishing. If you're fishing a lot of grass, that's on the surface. If you're fishing wood, it's going to hang up more. So again, same thing that I said with the spinnerbait. I don't put it on unless I have to.
real quick, what's up, Pete, Martin, Deborah, and thanks everybody for joining.
Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Yeah,
Bass Meat
totally
Radio.
lost my train of thought.
Yeah, that was- Rob kind of had like a blank moment for a second, and I'm just like, I was like, okay,
For
Rob,
once in my
here we
life, I
go.
had nothing to say.
is there a certain so before we go to the skirts versus plastics versus whatever, is there a specific type of clacker that you guys like? Like, do you like the tab? Do you like where
I like
some
the tab.
buzzbaits
I don't-
have the rounded shank where you actually have to tune the buzzbait? to get
I
that
do
clack?
not like a very loud. I don't like a very loud clack in my
Oh.
buzzbait. What I do like, I like a good squeak in my buzzbait.
So I'll talk about that in a second because that's important.
Yeah, the squeak.
As far as clackers go, I only throw this style of clacker, and let's see if I can
Which
get
is
a
very
little higher.
rare. That's very rare. Let me see that.
See if we can get it a little closer there. So
Do you guys see the thick part down there?
Right.
So the
More
blade's
towards
just
the
going to
head?
contact that little cylinder that's on there, and
It's
it's a very, it's a very subtle tick, and you can kind of hear it. So it's not like a full on clack. It's just it's a real subtle clacker. I'm a big fan of subtle buzzbaits. I don't throw a lot of, unless the fish are really aggressive. I'm going to be throwing a subtle buzzbait.
It's already a very aggressive bait in
Oh, yeah.
terms of the speeds and stuff that you normally have to work your buzz baits.
I guess.
So, I mean, in my opinion, compared to like throwing a hollow body frog where you're just kind of pulling it through the surface and kind of popping it along the buzz bait.
Or if you're walking a frog, even.
Yeah, unless you have, it's more of a steady retrieve bait.
We'll talk about speed a little bit later.
Okay.
Let's go into again, not no clacker. So the other style of buzzbait that you have is just going to be a blade, and it's not making any extra noise. It's just on the surface. Now, Chad made a really good point. Squeak is what is it? Squeak in a buzzbait is, if you can get a buzzbait that squeaks, you got a good one.
I might have given up a little bit of juice.
Well,
on that comment.
So the squeak is.
We don't have one here, but a squeaky dolphin is very sought after buzzbait. Put it there.
Deborah, as far as color for blade, usually I base it off watercolor and the amount of light. So if it's low light, I'll throw a painted blade. If it's a little bit dirtier water, I'll throw a gold blade. Clearer water, I'll throw a silver blade if it's sunny out. Black blade. We'll talk. We can talk about the black blade, I guess.
I'm straight. I throw straight silver. I don't use color blades. Silver. What about a red blade?
When you get later in the year, when you have good grass, especially on tidal water, and that water is super clean, I will almost always throw a black blade. I don't want the shine.
You don't want the flash?
I don't want the flash. I want it as subtle as possible. And I will throw a smaller profile, smaller blade, always a black blade.
What time of year are we talking?
August. So coming into
now.
like middle of this month,
Yeah,
these hot
like into
months.
September, when you get into real hot months, the fish get lethargic.
Yeah.
I want a real subtle, small profile and a black blade that's not throwing off a lot of shine.
What's up, Warren? Warren from Taylor Lures.
Taylor Lures in
What's
the
going on,
house.
brother? Hey, let me see that right there.
There you go.
We got a little package in the house from Taylor Lures here that we are going to be unboxing at the end of this episode.
Oh, you
so
want
you
to
guys
go
definitely
live,
make sure you stay in. I mean,
So you've only got a quick second.
I know Paul's right in the middle of what he's saying with his buzz bait.
All right.
So Taylor Lures sent us some new frogs, which we're pretty pumped about. I know we're talking about buzz baits tonight, but Taylor Lures sent us some one of his Model D frogs, and these frogs are bigger and badder
I like it.
than this is the Model C that I have here. We'll be putting up a video of these later on. Compared to the Model D, we have a larger profile frog. Yeah, let's dump these bad boys out. These are sweet. We got a couple different designs
Dude,
here.
those red eyes. I don't even
A
want
couple of them are some nice fire colors. They got the blades on the back, and then your standard tails.
I like that.
Right away, what we noticed before we even pull these out of the pack, I noticed there's a different weighting system on some of these frogs. Obviously, the profile is bigger. Without putting my fingers on the hooks themselves, these hooks, which seem to be very, very beefy hooks, very stout. And this frog seems to be very, very castable and a nice weight. Sitting here in the package. This was pure unboxing. I mean, I kind of cut it open and I peeked in. I'm not gonna lie, like before, but I haven't even dumped them out of the box yet. I wanted to do that with you guys, and
I can skip the heck out of that.
Yeah, so this frog looks like the weighting system is like perfect.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
it looks like it's the perfect balance of light enough to really stay on top 100% of the time, and also like have enough beef to throw it and to be able to work it without skipping it across the top of the water. So good job, Warren, for knocking these frogs out of the park.
Absolutely. And we will be getting some footage of these frogs in action. Can you have that one?
Please.
Intermission.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Warren,
I'm gonna make a video.
we're all a bunch of frog whores around this table, and
Yeah, we are frog whores.
and
What?
we're gonna be
Frog
putting these
whores.
frogs. So we're doing, especially right now. We're talking about, top water baits. We're on buzz baits right now.
Hey.
Warren joined in, so I definitely wanted to talk about the package that Warren sent us. and he's got his new Model D frogs out from Taylor Lures, and these are a bigger profile, larger frog, and these things look sweet. Still in the package, so some more reviews coming on these things yet, but you can't beat. I mean, he's got a great frog in the model. Oh, there's one out of the package. He's got.
No, I need this one. I need this
All
one.
right, I'm taking this out of the
Thursday.
package because I'm too excited now.
No, I got this one out. I will show it.
These are beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Brian Dyson said he wants to try one. We'll get you one, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, what's up, Pete? Pete's trying to get on the show. We'll get you on, Pete.
These are very soft. These are very. Dude,
like
the
that.
hookup ratio on this frog is going to be insane.
Bend them hooks out a little
No,
bit.
this
Yeah.
color scheme though.
Oh, they're
Put it
very
away.
stout, very sticky hooks,
I'm gonna make a whole video on this frog right here.
solid hardware. This is a very great frog. We're grateful to have a sponsor like Taylor Lures behind us. This is some straight up juice during the summertime.
Greg said he wants the black one. Look, man, y'all can't be
Yeah.
giving everybody wrong.
Greg, I'll show you. That's funny you mentioned that. I'll show you something on Thursday.
Yeah, so
I'll show you something on Thursday. What's that?
That's funny.
about?
So,
yeah, dude. That's what I'm saying.
so I had not to get off topic, but I had a clear frog. It's a river to sea. It's a very big frog.
Oh,
And-
sorry, got you, Pete. All right.
And like I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, and it's got white legs. I'm like, I don't like this. I took a black permanent marker and colored the whole body black, so now I have a black frog. That's just funny that Greg brings that up. I just did that tonight too.
Tell you what, you could get some really sick black frogs from Taylor Lures.
So
Like this one right here.
But thank you, Warren
Yeah,
Taylor, for this package from Taylor Lures. We are going to tie these frogs on and put these frogs to work.
oh yeah.
At the Thursday night tournament.
Yep.
It's happening. They're going to get tore up. But as we go through that, we are going to jump back on the spinnerbait topic now.
Buzzbait.
Buzzbait
Buzzbait.
topic now.
So
It's got bait at the end of it.
all right, so we talked about clackers. Now we're talking about your regular buzzbait. The most important thing is the sound that they make, and you really want to squeak. And I'm gonna give away a couple of things that I learned about making your buzzbait squeak. So the first thing that you want to do is that rivet that's on the back. If it's not already out of the package, take you a pair of pliers and clamp that thing down as hard as you can. You do not want that rivet to rotate. You don't want it to move.
You said rivet.
What
A
about?
rivet, yes.
I heard rivet.
You got frogs on the brain.
Hey, listen.
He's got one in his
I
hand.
got Taylor Lewis
And-
on my brain.
You can weather that rivet
You can.
and get it rusty, nice and rusty.
You can.
Rivet.
You can. Some people rust it. I don't do that.
Mhm.
I don't rust my rivets.
But
There's
if you want more squeak,
I
They
feel like I
say-
can get just as much squeak without doing that.
I don't do it either, but
Um,
they do say that.
I do two things to modify the rivet. I clamp it down so it doesn't move, and then I'll take and that edge of the rivet,
Mhm.
I'll bend that just a hair toward the blade
So it hits it.
so that it digs into the back of that blade. If you look at the back of this blade, see how tore up it.
So there you go.
See how cone shaped it is.
Yes, I do.
So the more that it digs into the back of the blade, the more sound you're going to get.
So Kevin's asking a question.
Well, that's because Kevin has never caught a fish on a buzzbait. And he pulled out a whole box of them and sent me a text message and asked if these would work. But
Martin said it's Baltimore. Rivet is rivet.
so the other thing that you can do to create more squeak is if you have a painted blade, scrape all the paint off the back, where that blade touches the rivet. Take a knife and just scrape all that paint off there. You want metal to metal. That's what creates your squeak.
What about hanging it from your antenna?
If you hang it from the antenna, it will essentially what that does is it wears out. It wears the back of it. It'll wear the paint off, or it'll just wear the back of it. Makes it a little rough. Makes it squeak more. A lot of people will set them in front of a fan. Greg DePalma has a good video on his Facebook prepping for the Chickamauga tournament this year, and he's got a line of buzzbaits sitting up in front of a box fan,
Just let
letting them blow.
Oh wow!
Because it will. The more that you use a buzzbait, the better it'll get.
Right.
Hello,
Yeah.
Miss
More
Maria.
squeak. More squeak.
Or all you got to do is like
Hey,
last
Murray.
week, like when it started blowing 30 mile an hour, you just take your rod and hold it up in the air, going back to the ramp.
Yeah.
So that's your important. To me, that's your most important thing with a traditional style buzzbait, not a non-clacker. Without getting into like sizes of blades and things like that, because that makes a difference as well. And the skirt, which is what we're going to talk about next.
So I think
Greg made a comment real quick.
The Rusty Rivet from Picasso, that's a great buzzbait, Greg. Picasso baits in general are fantastic. That Rusty Rivet is a good one. I throw a bigmouthlures.com for anybody that fishes bass tournaments in Maryland. They may know Brian Barnes. Brian Barnes from Big Mouth Lures makes the best buzzbait that I've ever tried.
Kevin said he's going to spray all your buzzbaits with WD-40 so they don't squeak. I'm sorry, Tony. What were you saying? I do.
So, I think it's a really good transition to get into skirts, and I guess so. Again, my understanding, because I'll kind of take the role of the somewhat inexperienced buzzbait fisherman here. My understanding of the whole skirts, no skirts, is that skirts is somewhat of a old school style. Like most guys now, and they're throwing buzzbaits, whether it's Elite Series or whatever, are throwing plastic trailers. They're not really throwing the skirts. That's kind of
want to know why?
An old school thing.
So there's one reason.
Something different?
Nope. There's one reason that you throw a buzzbait with this style.
More weedless.
Because it skips better.
Exactly.
You can skip it.
You can skip it. You can't skip. You can't skip that.
As well.
Throw a toad. No, you can't skip it at all.
No.
You throw a toad on the back of it, you get that nice flat surface. I can skip a buzzbait.
Some juice has just been dropped on Bass
I can skip
Radio.
It's like the Little Caesar commercial where you skip the pizza across the lake.
I can so I can take this quarter-ounce buzzbait and throw a whatever trailer that you want on it. I tend not to throw. I don't throw toads on mine very much because it's a big honking piece of plastic.
Did you say quarter ounce?
I did. We'll talk about size.
3/8.
So I can skip this 30 feet under a dock.
Right.
You
mean
if
with
I put
a-
a nice
with a
flat
trailer on
with a
it,
nice
right.
flat trailer on it? I mean, you can skip a buzzbait just like you can skip a jig. It's not easy, and you will backlash it more than skipping a jig because if that blade hits the water before the bottom does, you're done. So that's the main reason for throwing a plastic on a buzzbait. Now, the other reason for throwing a plastic on a buzzbait is it does give it more action. I don't throw any trailer on a buzzbait if it's got a skirt on it, Greg. If I'm just throwing
It's skirt only, or you cut the skirt off and you run soft plastic.
a soft plastic, and it's going to be one of these two. So it's going to be a double tail trailer type lure. A toad, like a zoom horny toad is popular on buzzbait. That's actually what this buzzbait's designed for, is a zoom horny
Or
toad.
rivet frog or something.
I don't want to, so you don't want to throw a rivet frog because the legs make it rise. So it'll actually mess with the action of the buzzbait. This works kind of. This is a yum. It doesn't work as well as like a zoom horny toad, but it does work. But the Z-Man Goat is a phenomenal buzzbait trick. If you want to fish soft
Z-Man
plastic,
Goat. I'm not familiar.
the Z-Man Goat. It's just a little twin tail. It's almost like a menace grub.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a fantastic.
Like
I
my
mean,
spinner bait trailer.
you can skip it, and it's elastic. It just you super glue it on, and it will stay on forever. Like you never have to take it
I don't like rating Elastec, but I swear for like top water applications and stuff, I do Elastec is just like
phenomenal.
That's Kitech.
That's Kitech. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that I'll throw, and I really just throw this when I know they're keying in on bait fish. If they're keying in on bait fish, you can throw that swim bait, like Greg said. Throw that swim bait, just a plain swim bait, no trailer on the back.
And black if you're fishing in Back River, because that's how the big fish look in there.
I thought something looks like but yeah, just a swim bait. It just gives it a little bit different action. But just
Kayak is a go-to.
I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. If you're fishing buzzbaits, keep it simple. I have 15 buzzbaits in front of me, and there's only 2 colors.
Yeah.
There's black and white.
Yeah, that's all I have.
I do have a couple of chartreuse ones that I
think I'm narrowing down.
That's
Pretty
all
much
my
throwing
baits.
them. You can pretty much throw that if you're just feeling giddy in the same
Real-
exact
real
application.
quick,
I usually
as your
like
national
chartreuse, so I'll throw chartreuse if they're feeding them. If I know they're feeding on bluegill, I'll throw chartreuse.
So real
What
quick,
about a bluegill makes you think chartreuse?
So a lot of
They got a
bluegill
little
have
yellow,
have
yeah.
that like little greenish chartreuse
Yeah.
on them, and it's really
Right.
like a flash.
Gill,
Yeah, it's a reaction bite. So
Yellow
chartreuse.
perch, bluegill, I think kind of.
so real quick, Paul, if you don't mind me asking, so these 3-blade buzz baits,
Mhm.
is there a specific time and place where you like these, or is it just it's chartreuse, wing it?
So your blade design, I typically throw a 2-blade buzzbait.
You can roll
your-
those slower,
Your
right?
3-blade, you can fish it a little bit slower. It creates a little more disturbance on the water. So it kind of goes back to like the clacker. When the fish are a little more aggressive, when if they're a little more territorial, you throw that 3-blade buzzbait, and you just get a little more disturbance on the surface.
Can you imagine being the dude that invented the buzzbait? Threw that shit out there and you're like, we're on it. Like, holy shit. Like, damn, that had to be amazing. Like,
So talking about skirts, we want to talk about color as well. So skirts versus plastics, just to recap, when you want to skip a buzzbait and when they're feeding on bait fish, gives you a little more of a bait fish profile. That's really the only times that I throw a plastic on a buzzbait. Or if you notice this is a really big buzzbait. When I want a bigger profile, like I'm targeting bigger fish and I want a big profile buzzbait. Again, it goes back to if they're being territorial, if they're feeding on bigger bait, you want to. It's all about matching the hatch.
let me ask both of y'all a question. Say it's high tide. You're fishing the grass. It's high tide. The tide's up over the grass. You still throwing a frog? You're gonna go to a buzzbait.
Brian asked this question last week when we were talking about frogs, and I'll answer it the same way. I will throw a buzzbait until I can't get it through the grass anymore.
I remember that. I wasn't able to make it last week, but I do remember you saying that.
The reason being, I feel like you will get. All depends on the direction you cast.
But
Greg. You
Greg,
got to make sure you cast.
not only
the right
that,
direction.
Greg, but we're talking about if the tide's up over the grass, where you're not gonna get hung up on grass if you're throwing a buzzbait.
If the
Would
tide's
you
over the
choose-
grass, yeah.
Right. Would you choose if there's the option and you're not going to get hung up, you can fish it easily. You're going with a buzzbait or going with a frog.
So, to that point, the reason that I do that and rather than throwing a frog like a horny toad or a rivet frog or something like that, that has kind of has a similar action to a buzzbait. Hookup ratio on a buzzbait is 10 times better than it is on a toad.
Oh yeah, 1,000%.
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
100, yeah, easy.
Yeah.
Now,
I don't miss a lot of fish on a buzzbait. Funny, I missed 2 on some. I missed 2 blows on.
I put that trailer hook on there. Tell them, Deborah.
I missed it as well Saturday up with the
So-
flats, unfortunately.
So, yeah, your hookup ratio on a buzzbait just way better than a toad. So if you can fish a buzzbait, if you can get it through the grass without it hanging up too much, that's
You're not even thinking frog. You're like, oh, the tide's up high enough. I can get this buzzbait over the grass. I'm going buzzbait.
100% of the time.
So
I would agree with that. I would probably do.
Do you
Unless
think
I'm
the-
throwing like a walking, if they're
Yeah,
they're
that's
not.
fair.
Sometimes they're just not eating the moving bait, and you throwing a walking frog, just over top of the grass fishing, just walking. It's kind of slow,
Slow.
just to slow down the profile. But
I've been noticing
Grass
lately,
fishing,
sometimes you can throw a frog out there and just let it sit.
So that happened to me.
Happened to me
yesterday.
twice.
well, it's a good thing. Good thing we're not talking about frogs.
That's some juice right there. Yeah, let's move on. We're talking about buzzbaits.
So one last thing I had on the buzzbait question, right? So like me personally, and again, you guys kind of know my style of fishing. I just kind of, oh, this looks good. I'll throw this out there, right? So like I'm guilty of it all the time. Most of the buzzbaits that I have that have plastic trailers, with the exception of the buzz toad, or because the skirt done fell off, and I just decided to put a piece of plastic on there.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I hate those skirts that got a little rubber band around them. They rot out and they eventually fall off.
I make all my
There's
own
some that are
skirts, so
sewn on.
I have a whole box
That
of
won't
skirts
fall
in my
off.
boot. So if
Yeah.
something falls off, I just throw it back on.
Eelgrass clogs up the blade because it's always chopped up.
Yeah, sometimes, and that's a problem with any kind of top water other than frogs. Even on a high tide, is sometimes, I mean, if you have a lot of boat traffic or there's been a lot of wind, you get a lot of that floating grass, and
I hate that.
when
It's
you get
so
that floating
annoying.
grass, it's so hard. It's so hard to fish anything. I mean, it's hard to fish a chatterbait through that stuff.
Spinnerbait, chatterbait,
Do
anything.
you
It's
think
annoying
that
as hell.
will fish hit a buzzbait or a lure in general, say a spinnerbait or a chatterbait, if it has a piece of grass stuck on the hook? Will they hit it?
Yes.
I say no.
Dude, I've
I
been
say
hit like
no.
that before.
'Cause
I
I have-
never have.
Then
I
I never have either. I said I've been out here fishing for 5-6 years now, and in one of those, if I'm bringing it in and it comes back in with a piece of grass on, I've never pulled. You know what I mean?
So I think your question's slightly off, and what I'll say is this, right? Swim jig, spinnerbait, chatterbait. How many times have you got bit after you rip it through a clump?
Exactly.
Well, that's,
Do you
that's
really
different than it getting hung on it.
Oh, straight retrieval on the grass.
I'm
is
hung
no.
on it.
Yeah.
But he's talking about a piece of grass hanging off.
Right, that's what I'm talking
I'm
about.
talking about grass
I
actually
don't
stuck
I don't get
with the
bit.
bait.
So there's like,
If you get hung in the grass and you snap it out,
well, that's what I was saying.
Yeah,
That's what-
absolutely.
yeah.
but if there's grass like hung on the hook,
A big clog of grass, a big clump of grass.
if there's
I
one
don't know about
if there's
that.
one piece of grass on the hook, I feel like I won't get
A
bit.
piece
There's
of
like a
hydrilla,
thing
a
with
piece of eelgrass.
ripping-
I don't think I'll get beat either. I'll get
So,
bit either.
ripping
It's funny,
crankbaits through grass.
I was actually, and this was not from bass fishing, but this was a guy talking about musky fishing, which musky fishing a lot tougher than bass fishing. He said there is no percentage of your hooks being fouled. Either they're fouled or they're not. It doesn't matter if a piece of grass is this big or 3 feet long. Your hook, if you have a half-inch piece of grass, your hook's fouled.
Yeah.
And that will affect you getting bit. It'll affect the action of the bait, and it'll affect you getting bit. So
Yeah,
I think it,
buzz
I
bait
think it
or
looks
like-
weird.
It's like I'll throw
well, it
a
affects the action
chatterbait.
of the bait a lot too.
I'll throw a chatterbait and then and knock all that grass off of it, and usually that's what
Exactly. Yeah.
as Tony was saying.
Yeah. When it pops out of the grass, absolutely. If you can pop that grass,
It's like a
same thing
crankbait.
works the same thing. Same thing works on a buzz bait. So
Give it a little
you just give it. You come through the grass, it gets tangled up. If you just pop it real hard, a lot of times you can pop that grass off there. Unless it's sometimes just the nature of a buzz bait with the blade spinning, it'll get wrapped around the front of it.
Yeah.
And that's what Greg's talking about.
So I actually want to get to Greg's comment, and because Greg, if you can you bring that up, Chad, the last one. So Greg says eelgrass and the blade clogs is always chopped up, and all this nonsense about how the eelgrass will always mess up your buzzbait. And for the most part, that's true. What I have found, and I'm sure you guys will agree, if you throw the buzzbait the same way that the grass is laying, you can actually almost 100% of the time fish it without it
When
fouling.
the current's weighing.
Well,
down.
so if
You're
the grass is,
casting it against the current.
Right.
so if the grass
and retrieving with
Yes.
if the
Retrieving
grass
with
is
the
laying
current.
over facing me and I throw the buzzbait and retrieve it facing me, I can fish that buzzbait effectively and not worry about it. Now, what does that mean most of the time? That means most of the time if you're going to fish that way, you're casting into the wind because we always have some sort of wind here. Like last week, you couldn't cast into the wind.
I mean, most of the
It
time,
was
that's the
bad
way
last
that you're.
week,
Most of the time, that's the way you say you're supposed to fish. You
You
want
always
to fish
wanna
with the
get-
way that the current or the wind is blowing.
But-
It's the natural direction of movement.
They say fish with the current, but I have seen times where you go against the current. And
Bro, I don't do that shit like ever.
never
I
go
fish-
against the current.
I mean, I do, dude. I fish against the current all the time.
Oh, okay.
Tyler, we
And
don't
I
have to
still
pay for
catch
six,
fish.
so you can keep those on your own time.
Got him.
But
I do want to say real quick, sorry to go, Joel. Welcome to Tyler Judd. That's the first comment. I think I've seen him on Bass and Beer. So welcome, Tyler. We appreciate you coming on. Little backstory: Tyler Judd has put together some serious whack fests on Loch Raven Reservoir over the years.
he was on them this spring and up until recently on some of the mag drafts and some of the glide baits out there.
So
Did he fish some of the Thursday nighters?
No.
no.
Oh, it's a different guy. I'm thinking of
The
them.
Team Outcast guy for I think a year or two. So good people and all that. But if you want to talk about Loch Raven Smash Fest, that's the guy.
Yeah.
I know what you're gonna write. But so I think what's the next topic that we had on there, Paul?
So we talked about clackers. We talked about skirts. We guess we can go into size and color.
So we kind of already covered color,
White and black. White or black.
and maybe chartreuse.
What about red?
So
I don't
the
throw
first fish I ever caught,
Not
not
in the
the
buzzbait.
White, black, or chartreuse. That's all.
Not in the buzzbait world.
And then we went into blade color.
And
I
when
prefer silver.
So when a lot of it, I was telling you this before the show, Rob. I don't think blade color really matters that much.
I don't think so either. I agree.
I think skirt color matters way more.
Yeah.
So your skirt color, again, I throw 3 colors, and black, white, chartreuse. That's the only 3 colors I have. I keep it simple. When you start getting into, like 50 million colors, like I do with crankbaits, Rob does with crankbaits.
Yeah.
I have
crankbait episode is going to be.
I have probably
It's going to be 3 parts.
Yeah, probably.
I probably have 300 crankbaits in my boat.
Yeah, I know.
And I have 8 billion different colors. So when I look in there, I'm like, what color do I throw? Like when I look at my buzzbaits, I was like, well, do I want to throw black or do I want to throw white?
You have
Okay.
8 billion colors on 300 crankbaits?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not that hard to do.
Each one
The
has like 40 colors on it.
The crankbait game is just when it comes to lures. If you're a lure junkie, the crankbait game is like king. It's endless freaking tunnel.
Anyway,
you could go down that rabbit hole for
back
years.
to buzzbait colors.
Like seriously,
Yeah.
You could.
you really could. Yes.
So back to buzzbait colors, 3 colors. You want black, white, chartreuse. I'm throwing white if they're eating shad. If I know they're eating shad, shad, herring,
Which is
anything
a
like that,
main forage of food
I'm throwing white.
Hickory shell.
in our home realm.
And LY, which
I'm
is
throwing-
white as well.
I'm throwing black when they're not hitting white. Like that's my main reason for throwing black. If they're not eating a white buzzbait, I'll throw a black buzzbait.
What if they're not
are
hitting
you
either?
doing that? Are you doing that because they were blowing up on the white one and just?
I'm just talking about like
striking?
not getting bites.
Just
like,
not
if I'm
getting
not
bites
getting
at
bites
all.
Just
all.
nothing happening.
No,
at
no,
all.
gotcha.
I'm going to start with white. I'm going to go with black. If I know there are a lot of bluegill in the area, I will throw something like this where you got I don't like a straight chartreuse skirt, but I like something with a little bit of blue, a little bit of chartreuse in it. It kind of gives you that little bit of a bluegilly type type color. So I throw that a lot, but mainly I'm throwing black or white. Some of them are kind of random. Yeah, there's a little chartreuse in it, but
This has to do with color, but a little bit differently. I do want to say, because I don't remember if this was covered yet, but do you think the blade being hammered is going to make a difference in your bite ratio? Do you think it makes a different flash?
no.
No.
I think that blade color is less important. Now I will say, like I said earlier, I like a black blade in the summertime
Mhm.
when the water's low, clear, because I think it's a little more subtle. You're not getting all that crazy flash off of it. I'll fish a gold blade in dirtier water. Fish a silver blade in cleaner water.
So, Paul, one thing I am noticing, I know
White blade when it's cloudy.
I'm kind of talking a little bit about blades right now, and I know we're talking about colors, but why is there holes in some of these blades, and some of the blades are solid, some of these blades have holes in them? Is there a purpose for that?
So the holes will actually give you a bubble trail.
Oh wow. Okay.
So you'll get a bubble
See the
trail
holes
through
in
it.
the blade?
And that's really what the holes do. So you'll see there's holes in this one as well. It gives you a bubble trail, so it just makes a little different action. You scroll down there.
I did not know that.
I do not bend my blades, not too much, not anything fancy. So, gotcha.
I've never bent mine ever. Like I've never.
Yeah, it's just. I mean,
I
for the
have.
most part,
I've
they
bent
all
the
have about a
arm.
90. They all have about a 90-degree angle. and I just try to keep it with that. Now I'll bend them, if they get bent out of shape, I'll bend them back into shape, but I don't bend the blades. I do, and I don't have one that I've bent. I do bend the wire frequently.
I was gonna bring up wire later on in our show tonight.
You have a pair of pliers?
Not back here, not in the studio. I do not.
So I don't have a pair of pliers either, so I can't really demonstrate. But blade color, again, I tend to same thing with spinnerbaits. If it's cloudy, I throw a painted blade.
Yep.
If it's sunny, I throw a
Natural
silver
color
or gold
blade,
blade.
silver blade.
And if it's dirtier water, I tend to always throw a gold blade.
Mm-hmm. Dirtier water, the gold blade.
Yeah, gold just shows up a little bit better. So anytime you have dirty water, it doesn't matter if you're throwing a spinnerbait, chatterbait, buzzbait. Gold just shows up a little better in that dirtier water than silver does. Kind of hard to find, but if you can throw, well, actually, just to get off topic for a second, there's a new color jackhammer called Dirty Water White.
Okay.
Or Dirty White, and it's a white jackhammer with gold blade, so you don't have to custom make your skirts anymore.
Okay.
So I've done it
That's
for a
pretty
long
interesting.
time.
Some more juice has been dropped.
Something that we talked about earlier, Paul, and I don't know if you already, Rob was using the restroom. Remember we talked about bending the blade down to get more slack?
So you can do that. I'm not a
Never
fan of that. So you can bend get one out here. You can bend your blade closer to the wire so it makes contact with the wire. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think it really impedes the action of the buzzbait.
I think you can get more malfunctions out of the bait due to that.
I mean, if you get it bent just right, it works and it will just barely tip that. But as soon as you catch one fish, then you got to bend it back. And I think it impedes the action of the buzzbait more than it helps me get more bites.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not a big fan of bending the wire down to get that clacking action.
Well, it sounds
If
like
I want that clacking action, I'll just throw a clacker buzzbait.
it sounds like you're not that big. You're not big on a noisy buzzbait. You're kind of like a little squeak.
So that's a good point. We talked about color. I'll talk about that when I talk about my how I retrieve a buzzbait and the equipment that I use.
Color was incredibly basic for the buzzbaits as far as all that goes. Like it's natural colors are like black, and that's all we're kind of going with. I mean that's it.
Black. I throw black, white, and chartreuse. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't throw anything else.
I don't.
I
know a lot of guys.
I've thrown a billion colors over the years, and
right.
I don't throw anything else.
So that's what I was saying. Like you get to a point like I know my go-to colors. I know my go-to bait. You buy tackle, you buy all this tackle, and then you only throw certain things, and then eventually you start to just stick to your go-to things and realize.
I got 300 crankbaits in my boat. I only throw 4.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
I throw the same square bill every time. I throw the same DT6 every time. I throw the same deep diving crankbait every time.
Right. Me and Kevin was actually talking the other day when we went fishing, and Kevin was like, "I throw all my frogs away, but this one."
See, and
I know exactly which one it is.
I know you do.
And not
But,
to
you know what
the
I'm
only
saying?
one he ever throws.
and not to get off on a tangent, but
Confidence
like
thing.
I'm the kind of the king of keeping it simple because you can get
Yes,
in
you
there. That's
Keep-
why I'm not a
Nobody's
tackle
denying
junkie.
that.
Tony loves the fish method, the kiss method.
Like
What size hooks you got, Tony?
Keep
One
it
size.
simple.
Russ.
It works. Dude.
And
It's
it's
got
rusty
rust.
hooks. Got
I
one size
see,
hook, and it works, and
I
you don't
see-
need nothing else.
I see Tyler Hawthorne is logged on watching Bass View Radio.
You know it, Tyler.
The bait of champions. Let me bring it up here, brother.
Baby Slim Jims.
UMA Lure
Oh.
Company crankbaits, brother.
Tyler out my use there.
Crankbaits that are the finest in deflection,
So
finest hardware, and the finest wood.
yes,
What kind of wood?
Uma,
Oh, just
the,
only the best.
the UMA
Balsa.
Lure Company, the
My
UMA
wood's the
Lure
best
Company
wood.
He said,
is the. I've said this. I've said this in chat a bunch of times off the air. The UMA Lures square bill is the only square bill that's really more.
Period.
So this is their flat side, correct?
Yes.
This is one of them. This
One
is
of them.
You throw a flat
goodness.
side. Chad won't give me.
I don't
them.
throw
He's
a-
all stingy with them.
I don't throw a lot of flat
Dude,
sides.
I'm not giving
when
up
I
these
do-
UMAs,
Yeah, I
bro. These
know.
are sweet.
I've
I'm
been trying to give
sorry.
one for like 3 weeks, and he will not give me.
When I throw a flat side crankbait, yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
don't throw a flat side a lot, but when I do,
You don't like the flat side?
I don't throw a flat side a lot. I throw the springtime a lot, but
Not
outside of
all.
springtime,
You like a square bill?
I throw a square bill
Yeah.
most of the time, especially well around here.
I'm so shallow.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm being 100% honest on the air. We got these lures in the mail from Tyler, these crankbaits, and I had every intention of
It's pretty bad.
testing these things out and maybe keeping one and giving the rest of them away.
You won't
And you
give-
cut them all.
Dude,
right.
none of these are leaving my possession, dude. Like, these are some nasty crankbaits. If you have not purchased any of these crankbaits or talked to Tyler about getting some made for you, you should
You
definitely do that because
I'm
the
gonna have
crankbaits. I like
The paint jobs.
the paint jobs,
are
the
ridiculous.
foil wraps, the great hardware.
Hold that one up to the camera. The paint jobs are just out of this world. Tyler does a really great job.
Yeah.
So back to buzzbaits.
This one right here. is
Phenomenal.
really Fire.
Thank you, Tyler, from UMA Lure Company.
Next thing I had written down for buzzbaits, speed.
Uh-oh. My bad.
It's a shallow water Shogun theme song.
Okay. You like it? You reckon that's funny?
I'm
that
telling you, man, I got it.
That's funny.
All right,
Too many
so-
buttons looking around.
I appreciate that too. by the way.
Buzzbait speeds. So there's two schools of thought. So my school of thought, and
Well,
again, the
Before we
simplicity.
get to the
method.
size, we want to talk about size.
Did we skip size?
So size
We
and
did
speed.
skip size.
So
3/8 all
it's a
the
good,
time. That's
it's a
all
good
I
thing to
throw.
come in.
Whatever's tied on.
3/8. Tony's whatever I got. That's what I'm throwing.
So
yeah.
size and speed kind of go together because the size of your
good point.
buzzbait
Yeah.
will dictate how fast you can reel it. And I will tell you, there is only one speed to reel a buzzbait, and that is as slow as you can to get it to work.
I believe that with a spinner bait as well.
So
I like to
I'm not
roll
I'm
my
not
spinner
on-
baits as slow as I can.
I'm not on that train of thought, and I
No.
can tell you, I have one speed for a buzzbait, and it just depends on whatever reel I got going on.
It's fast as fuck, boy.
For real, it's
Tony's
this.
not a technical
this.
guy.
It's this.
Yeah.
I reel a buzzbait as slow as I can to keep it on the surface.
I actually get more bites from my buzzbait.
And if I need to
from
change speed,
popping it for your grass.
well, keeping up some juice, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
everyone's gonna do that though. Like,
So it's not really but it's not only popping it for your grass. So
You just pop it like that when
If
you
you're
go
just-
across that high percentage area.
exactly.
Yeah.
If you're just reeling a buzzbait steadily in, that's not how you want to work a buzzbait.
Right.
So when you get by, if you're coming, say you're fishing wood, and you're coming by that stick up,
Hit
you
the
just
stick.
you can hit the stick, but even if you're not hitting the stick, when you're reeling past it, you get right next to it, crank that reel real hard. And Gerald Swindle calls it. He had a tournament partner when he used to fish team tournaments. We call it bucking that horse.
Yeah, buck that
And
horse.
when they fish night tournaments, he'd be fishing buzzbait, and he'd tell Gerald usually he'd be coming by some like grass or something, buck that horse, and you just pull, either you can use a rod or you can use a reel handle, but you just want to give it a different. You want to interrupt that action.
It's like a crankbait deflecting off of a log.
Like a crankbait
So-
reflecting,
yeah.
or a pause in a crankbait.
actually, not to get off tangent because it is still about buzzbaits, but Paul brings up a really good story about Gerald Swindle. So, I think it was the Bass University podcast where he talked about basically similar series of what we do Thursday nighters, 3 hours, 3 fish. He actually got asked to not fish the tournaments because
He was smoking everyone.
and the turnout was turning to shit because
That happens
everybody
to us.
knew.
He's
And
just going to come win it.
That
It's
happens.
like you this year.
That happens.
no, it's not.
Well, I would literally go there. I would literally go just to fish.
Best Gerald Swindle story ever.
Well, yeah,
Not to change the subject, but the best Gerald Swindle story ever. Did you all see him on Bassmasters? And he got up on stage and he was like, "Man, this fishing is tough in this place. No wonder y'all got so many fucking liquor stores."
Okay, so a lot of those, you have to think, like you say, oh, I would fish it just to fish with him. Well, a lot of those guys have been fishing against him for 20 years. Like, so
Right.
it's not the same. It's just like, for like us around here fishing, when Greg DePalma comes to the tournament,
Right.
Some people might say, "Oh, he's an Elite Series angler. He's an Elite Series." Well, I've been fishing against Greg since I've started fishing tournaments. It's not a big deal.
Bro,
Duarte,
every time Duarte's
Canelli.
at the ramp and I fish against Duarte, I'm like, this is kind of cool.
He fished
like-
the same spot as you last week. I saw you.
He
did. I felt kind of bad.
local hammer. He's got a he's got a big name around here. Like everybody knows that he can catch
BASS,
him.
like all, you know.
And he's a stick.
Like
he's
when
a
you have
hammer,
those
but he's
Elite
not
Series
chasing me
angles,
away. That's more of a challenge.
your-
Like, all right, cool.
Greg DePalma fishes a lot of tournaments on the Upper Bay. Mike Iaconelli fishes a lot of tournaments on the Upper Bay. But I've been
Riz.
Riz, he's not an Elite Series, he's not like a
But
top
he's a
level.
hammer.
Adrian Avena fishes a lot of tournaments around
Adrian,
here.
yeah.
I put full
Travis,
confidence in
He fished the Elite Series.
the local stick though. I'm
You
not
should go look
gonna
up his
lie.
results.
I really do. I put full confidence in him.
Travis is
I
a
really
stupid
think,
visor.
I really think if he could do his thing and hit all these events, bro, I think Mike Duarte could fucking make it.
So Mike's
He's
Mike's
on his-
fishing.
he's
over.
on
Mike
his
is a
way.
hammer, dude. I really
He's
think
got
he
a
could.
brother too that's on there.
Johnny,
they're
Johnny
sticks.
really,
They're
really
sticks and they're doing well, and he may be one day. Maybe.
So,
I really think he could make
He's
it.
he's a super cool guy. If you never met him,
He's very humble.
humble,
He's very humble.
very approachable, and a nice guy. Yeah.
So Michael is fishing the Northern Opens this year, and he had a pretty decent start at the James. He was actually, I think he was in the top 15 after the first day. Slipped a little on the second day, but still had a pretty good finish for the start of the year. I don't remember how he did at Oneida, so I would have to look that up. So I don't know I don't know what his Angler of the Year standings are at the moment, but the third Open in that series is on the Bay. So
September.
It's coming up,
next month.
and then
end of September.
Greg DePalma's a good guy too.
Greg DePalma's
He's
a great,
super
he's a great
cool guy.
super cool guy.
I talked to Greg a little bit.
Adrian Avena.
I have not met him.
Super nice guy. I told you he fished in Chester County one year. He lives in New Jersey. He came down, fished in Chester County. I talked to him for probably an hour after the
It was
tournament.
good, dude.
Good, cool dude. We just talked about fishing. He was talking about how he caught him. I was talking about how we caught him, and he struggled that day. He had some fish out. It was a late tournament. It was in November, and he still had found some fish out in the grass. There was still a little bit of grass left, and he just couldn't get them to eat. And we ended up catching actually it was in October, and we ended up catching a lot of fish on the rock. We did well that tournament. I think we had third place.
So I don't know. I know we're on the buzzbait show, but we're getting into talking about pro bass fishing. I know you don't follow it that much, Chad or Tony, but I know Paul does. Have you seen all the big stuff about cheating?
About Jeff Sprague.
Jeff Sprague,
Yes,
college
I
kids.
did.
There's
The,
a whole-
the college kids. I didn't. Oh,
College
the
kids
high
having
school.
fishing baskets.
That was high school.
Stuffing
Yes.
weights down there.
Yes.
So that's
Jeff Sprague
and they got
breaking the information rules.
So when they got caught, and they actually those college kids got prosecuted for that. The Jeff Sprague thing is
It's
little
a
different
felony.
because he.
So he broke a rule.
So
It's a little
He
bit
broke the
different.
information rules.
Let's take a step back to last year on the Bass Pro Tour when on camera, and he claims
He snagged the fish.
He snagged a spawning fish in the side, and he did it 100% on purpose. In my opinion, you can see it on camera. He pitches over, bait goes down, he jacks it with a flipping rod, and he pulls up a 4-pounder that's hooked in the side.
And got away with it.
And
It was
he
like
said,
big
"Well,
fish for like
I
5
wasn't
minutes."
sight fishing that. I wasn't sight fishing that fish. I just cast it out to deeper water, and I just happened to land right on top of a fish." He's full of shit. I don't like the guy. He's
Well,
from
he's
what
in
I
big trouble
understand.
now.
From what I understand,
Well, there's a text trail now.
so from what I understand, this is not the first time that he has broken this information rule. And the thing that tells me that he's a piece of shit is he legitimately deceived the person
Right.
who he got the
He
information
told
from.
he told
He
them
told them
he was allowed.
He was allowed to get information before the cutoff, this and that, and he 100% deceived that person because the person questioned and asked, "Are you said are you allowed? Aren't you not allowed to get information? And that's in the text." And he said, "Oh, we can get information before the cutoff," which is 100% not true. He's been fishing the Bass Pro Tour for 4 years, and The rule has been the same for 4 years. That rule has never
And
changed.
it's not the first time he's done it. Apparently, there was people that he's been calling and getting information from. But the thing,
Apparently, there's a dude in Florida that he was talking to one of the other Bass Pro Tour anglers, and
told him
he said, "Why don't you call me when you guys come down
Jeff
here?"
does.
And the guy said, "Well, we can't get information." He's like, "Oh, Jeff Sprague calls me every time you guys come here."
Yeah. So the thing
anyway,
is, what was his penalty?
shit.
So here's the thing. What was
There it
There it is.
What was his
Still haven't
penalty?
put the
Was
score
like a one.
So he got DQ'd from that tournament. So he had to
And
forfeit his
suspended.
30,000. He had to forfeit his.
He
$30,000.
didn't get the money.
No, he had to forfeit that 30,000.
My wife was mad. She was like, he needs to get the money back. So
Oh yeah,
if
if
you
you
still
get
want
DQ'd
Marie-
if you get DQ'd from the tournament, you're not keeping the money. So he's not getting that
Yeah.
money back. I don't know how they're going to do it as far as the payout. If they'll just bump. the
Greg
next
is
guy
true though, so the whole thing is true, Greg, and the whole thing that's going on right now is he's the one that got caught, but it happens a lot.
Up. Well, that's because he's dumb. But anyway,
Yeah.
as far as a lot of people getting information, there are guys that do it. There are guys that are legit. And it sucks because the guys that are legit,
My
it
wife
makes
said, that's
them.
good. She was
It
like,
makes them
he
look.
needs to get the money back. It's bullshit.
When somebody gets called like that, it makes all of those guys look bad. And
Well, it's
not the
stealing from
majority.
them.
It's not the majority of those people that are doing stuff like that. So it's that whole a few bad apples ruin the bunch.
David Dudley was banned from Bassmasters for the same reason.
There's a lot of stuff that goes on there.
But
I
David
don't
Dudley
know
was
that
in
David
like
Dudley
a tackle shop and somebody told him some information.
I don't know that David Dudley was banned because there's a lot of guys that have been DQ'd for tournaments, but I've never seen anybody get banned. There's only one person I've ever known of that got banned.
Brian Velvick?
No, that got
Brian
banned.
Velvick got banned. I'm gonna tell you a story. It's hilarious, but
That got banned from fishing a circuit.
Mike
And-
Long?
No, it wasn't.
that's a
Well,
good story too.
He wasn't.
That's a good
I'm
story too.
talking about
Don't even
top
get me
level
started
pro.
on Mike Long, bro.
And-
Brian Velvick's story is great.
I can't think of the guy's name, but he cheated Bassmaster.
Oh, the one with the basket.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
He had fishing basket. Was like
He was
flipping into the basket.
He was a
Like,
he
It was
was
like under Peters, and he was like flipping.
he was a
into it.
BFL All-American champion.
Wow.
I mean, he won hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars before he got caught. He is banned from every major tournament, circuit out there. Kind of like Mike Long, but
Dude,
Mike Long was
You
staying.
want to watch something good? Watch the Ike Live with Brian Velvick, and he tells a story. So Mike, Ike and Ellie asked him like, how'd you get banned from Bassmasters? And he was like, well, I went fishing, and I had a co-angler, and we got on some fish. And the next day, I get to the spot, and my co-angler is there with another boater on my spot. So I get back to the boat ramp. I asked him something. He got smart, so I smacked him like a bitch. Swear to God, watch his face. It's on like lie. He's like a straight up bitch smack him. He wasn't even worth a punch. I had to fucking
That's funny.
bitch smack him.
So
Like he said that shit. Yeah, right. That's
all
the
right,
best.
so
That's the best ever, dude.
getting back to buzzbaits, we're talking about speed and size. So the bigger the blade, the slower you can reel it.
Yeah.
If you find, I actually don't have it with
Well,
me.
the triple blade.
Well, the triple blade, you can reel a lot slower than a double blade. But if you take a large blade like this, ignore the fact that it's on a giant frame, but you take a large blade like this, which this is more of like a half-ounce size blade, put that on a 3/8 head, you're going to be able to reel it a lot. Yes, he never got banned. He never got banned from
He
Bass.
did bitch smack somebody. He told a story like that, which is hilarious.
Yeah, he did. He retired.
Uh,
He had some health problems too.
and kids, I think he has a daughter or something like that.
I think he was having back problems and stuff.
He sells swim baits on eBay. Man.
Byron's he's a crazy dude, man. But
He was on The Bachelor.
so he was.
Yeah.
He won The Bachelor.
Yeah.
He was the
Reese.
the Bachelor.
Oh my
Skeet,
God.
Skeet Reese said he was like straight pimping on tour.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
So
That's awesome.
yeah.
if you want if you want a story about pro anglers, and this kind of fits in with Bass and Beer Radio, and you guys will appreciate this. So a guy that I fished with in the BASS regional down in Tennessee, he fished the opens for a few years, and he used to room with Bobby and Chris Lane. And Bobby and Chris Lane are a couple crazy mofos.
Yeah, I can see that.
So they're in New York, and they just had an elite series tournament over in like Mille Lacs or something, like over in Wisconsin, somewhere over there. And they're the Opens in New York. So it's the day before the tournament, and Bill, he was out rigging rods with Bobby. They, they're both rigging rods, and Bill's like, "Isn't Chris fishing?" He's like, "Yeah, I don't know where he's at. He drove. We both left at the same time." And so he said the night before the tournament at 10 o'clock, Chris pulls in the parking lot, opens his door, beer cans fall out of the door. beer cans fall out of the door.
Hey, I like that a lot.
Says he stopped in. He said he stopped somewhere on the way, and there was a strip club, and the titties, man, the titties.
What can you do, dude? What can you do?
Titties.
The titties.
I like titties.
So
Greg said that Brian Velvick's a really good dude, and I believe he is, dude. What I'm saying, do yourself a favor, Greg. Watch his when he's on Ike Live, him and Skeet Reese. It's super entertaining and one of the best podcasts I've ever seen in my life. It's hilarious.
Martin, absolutely. That's actually what the guy that I know and Bobby were doing in the parking lot while they were rigging up the rods was pounding beers. But
who does that?
Back to our buzzbait talk. So big blade, you can reel it slower. I am a huge proponent of reeling buzzbait as slow as you possibly can. That's how I fish buzzbait. That's how I fish every buzzbait. I don't burn them. I reel them as slow as I can. I get more bites.
That's some juice right there.
I get more bites reeling it slow, and your hookup ratio is a lot better when you reel it slow. So as Tony was saying, I only have one retrieve speed. Well, you can have one retrieve speed and change the speed of your buzzbait by adjusting the blade size. You can adjust the blade size, the weight. A lighter buzzbait.
Where you hold your rod tip.
You can hold it. Well, so
if you're fishing over grass,
that's a good point. So I only hold my rod tip one way when I fish buzzbait. My rod is at 10 o'clock all the time.
Big pimpin' 80s, he's got.
So when I'm fishing over the grass, I cast and I'm trying to hold it up and trying to get it.
10 o'clock.
I'm like fishing like I'm retarded because I'm like trying to keep it out the grass.
So that's a good. So that also comes. To another question: What kind of line? What kind of line do you fish with buzzbait?
Oh, here we go. We had this talk.
What kind of line do you fish with buzzbait?
Braid. I fish it with braid, Paul.
Braid.
Either 20-pound fluorocarbon or 50 or above braid.
So braid.
He doesn't fish it with
I never fish buzzbait on braid. Yeah. This is actually my buzzbait rod. Ignore the fact that it's got a speed worm on it right now. 7-to-1 reel. 17-pound
fluorocarbon.
17-pound fluorocarbon.
And why don't you like the braid? Rip the hook out their mouth.
You will miss so many fish on braid because
stretch.
There's no stretch, and if you're fishing, I'm fishing at a 10 o'clock angle. So my rod's about like this, and when I'm reeling in, I don't have any stretch in the braid. So as soon as that fish bites, if I touch the reel, if I move the rod at all, I'm pulling it out of the fish's mouth. I used to fish buzzbait on braid all the time. I can tell you that my hookup ratio is 100 times better than fluorocarbon.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to try that out because that is news to me. I mean, obviously, as most of us probably watching this podcast right now, we all think braid or monofilament for any type of top water lure.
Mono has too much
Always
stretch,
fish on with top water.
and with a buzzbait, because you are fishing a steady retrieve, the fluorocarbon doesn't matter. If you're fishing it right, your line is not touching the water.
I flip with fluorocarbon. So all my top water I use braid.
If you're fishing a buzzbait right, so here's your.
Is this a screw lock buzzbait?
Oh, you noticed that, did you? So these buzzbaits they're actually made by Boss Lures.
Wow.
Boss Tackle. These buzzbaits are made specifically for fishing a toad or a swim bait, and they are screw locked.
You figured that out.
That is.
You can see it for the time.
That's awesome.
How did you know it? Well, toward the head. Sorry about the eye.
It was already toward.
How did you? I don't even know how you caught that, but wow, yeah.
I
that is
mean,
pretty
saw it
I
through
mean
there.
that's a
Yeah,
little
it
bit
was
of a.
Do you just push it? You don't screw it on, of course. You
Yeah,
just
screw
push it.
Yeah, you screw it on.
After you get past the curve of the hook.
Yeah, you just go. Yeah,
So I fish a lot of screw lock.
Oh yeah, here we go.
I fish a lot of screw lock stuff, especially with like swim jigs, stuff like that. So, it's just a screw lock. You just run it in, run it back here, wherever it comes out. Helpful tip, always line it up.
Right.
So you know where it comes out.
Hold your finger there, where the hook's gonna come out.
Run it back.
Yeah, run it right through your finger.
Yeah, run it right through your
Done that.
Then you just run up on the hook.
Yeah,
That color.
dude, the colors are fire.
Yeah,
Twist it on.
It's got the white though.
There you go.
Yeah,
But
pretty cool.
Now you're ready for a second place finish.
That's a really
Yeah.
That's a really nice buzzbait if you want to fish. If you go to those like plastics, if you want to fish those plastics on the back of them, if you want to fish a toad, that is a really good buzzbait for that. That screw lock really helps, especially if you're skipping the buzzbait. If you're skipping a buzzbait, it holds it on there. If you're skipping a buzzbait, just some helpful tips: super glue your plastic.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're skipping anything,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. I don't care if you're skipping a chatterbait, you're skipping a jig, you're skipping a buzzbait.
A net rig.
If you're, even absolutely a net rig. And now I don't skip a Ned rig, so that's not the reason for it. But a Ned rig will, if you use a Z-Man TRD and you super glue it, you can literally catch hundreds of fish on one day.
Yeah.
As long as you don't break it off,
right.
of course.
Your hook will go.
Which
before
Tony
that.
will do.
I break off more Ned rigs than anything, so I understand that. So, back to speed. Reel 7-to-1, always on a 7-to-1 reel. I don't fish anything slower. I don't fish anything faster. I don't want to run an 8-to-1. 8-to-1's too fast. 7-to-1 is like my perfect. It just seems to be like my perfect, because when I make a really long cast, I need to take up that line pretty quickly to get it up on the surface, because you make a long cast, you got a lot of slack there. Want to reel it up quick. Martin.
Yeah, Martin. Martin can't read Martin's comments while you're trying to talk.
So you want that 7-to-1 to be able to take up the slack, but then once you get it up on the surface, you can kind of slow down. You can fish at a reasonable rate. You got 8-to-1. You're kind of like crawling it, and
You're missing
gets
bites.
out
You're
of
not
that-
so fast.
well, it just gets out of that rhythm for me. Like I can fish an 8-to-1 the same speed, but I got to slow down so much that I'm like out of rhythm, and I don't
What is the Z-Man? The new Hell? What's it called? The Hell Razor, the Hell Banger.
That's not a chatterbait, or that's not a buzzbait.
What would it be considered? What are we calling this thing? Is it a
It's just top water.
topwater chatterbait?
It's a top water.
You,
I mean, it's
you
just
want
like-
to put it in
I call it
buzzbait
more
family?
I call it more of like a prop bait.
What about the helicopter?
It's a lot more original than anything Guggen put out. Let's
What
put
about
it
the
that way.
helicopter? What about the helicopter? Is this a buzzbait?
So, one thing I want to ask you about buzzbaits.
Helicopter question, dude? Kind of wait to hear Paul's answer. The Roland Martin helicopter. Go ahead, Shane.
One thing I want to ask you about buzzbaits. A lot of us, I'm sure anybody that watches this show that throws a buzzbait has noticed. Sometimes when you throw a buzzbait, they don't always come in like this.
Yeah. Go.
Sometimes they're sideways and they're coming in sideways.
Yep.
Now, is that by design? Is that by retrieve? Is
You gotta
it wrong? Is it incorrect?
It's
It
incorrect.
is incorrect.
It has to do with the angle of the wire. So it's always gonna kick a little bit to the side because of it's just the centrifugal.
Well,
it's gonna pull a little bit, but it shouldn't be on the side. It should be more like an 1/8 of an inch.
Parallel.
But it should be running parallel like this. It should not be running like this.
which opens up a good question. What kind of knot do you use on the buzzbait?
Well, so let's talk about tuning it first. So if it's running to the side,
Mhm.
when you're looking straight at the bait, like this one's way out of tune. You can see it. See how bent that is. Look at the hook and follow the wire.
Yes.
So see how it's bent to the side. So this will run this way, And I did not do that on purpose. That is probably just because I caught a fish on it, and I never really did it.
This one is furred as well.
You want it, so I usually kick them off a little. So depending on how the blade is bent, will determine which way the blades turn. So see how this blade is bent this way, so this buzzbait is going to turn this way. Blade is bent this way, buzzbait is going to turn this way. So depending on which way the blade turns, it's always going to run a little bit to the side.
Right.
So I usually like to tune it just a hair outside of dead straight, and that'll help make it run straight. But if it gets too far over, or if this blade gets bent this way, if this gets bent up, like this because you caught a fish or you got hung up on something, all of those will cause it to run not true. And you always want it to run as true as possible. You want this parallel, this blade on the water, and then this directly below it. You don't want it off to the side at all. You want it as close to being straight under as possible.
We've all seen it. We've all pulled buzzbaits out of the package from the store and tossed them out there, and they came in sideways. And personally, I've always kind of wondered if that is incorrect or a tuning issue, or if that's just the way they're supposed to be. I've caught fish on them when they run that way.
Oh yeah, the biggest thing that it'll do, like they'll still catch fish. I won't say they'll catch any, but the hookup ratio sucks because it's not hanging down. So if this is down, this is below the surface.
It's not
right.
This is up. So they're coming up and hit it. That's why a lot of the bait bites you get on a buzzbait, you don't get that they just come up and slurp.
It's an inch below the water.
Yeah, give or take. Yeah, inch and a half.
That's why I brought up the knot, because I know sometimes my knot will slide down or slide up, and then my buzzbait won't run right.
So the same knot that I throw on every single bait that I am tying with fluorocarbon or mono. The only thing I tie a different knot on was braid, and I tie a double line uni knot.
And you have no problem
Martin is probably the only person that knows what that knot is.
You and you have no problems with it moving.
Nope, that knot does not move.
Does not move. Because that's part of my problem. Sometimes I tie a Palomar knot and it will move. Like sometimes I'll be retrieving my buzzbait and it won't be coming back in right, and then I'll notice that my line done slid up, here, or slid down here.
Get up here.
No matter how tight I tie it.
Now, we talked about line earlier, and one of the other problems with braid is if you go to clear, if you miss a strike, or you go to clear, you get in some grass and you go to clear it, because there's no stretch. You go to clear it, it comes free, and your braid wraps around the blades. And then you're screwed. And
then cut your braid, because I had this happen the other day with Jamaican boa.
So then the rest of your retrieve is no good. If you miss a fish, you can't do. You try to set the hook, braid gets all wrapped up. That doesn't happen with fluorocarbon.
A Jamaican boa will cut your braid in half. I learned this the other day, and then I told Paul, because Paul was out on the water, and I was like, "Yeah, Jamaican boa just cut my line right in half," and he was like, "That's because you throw a braid."
I guess you lost the Jamaican boa.
It's gone.
So when you that's another reason that I throw fluorocarbon is because it doesn't get hung around the blade like braid does. You don't get as many foul ups with a line.
I like the wind knots and shit that you would braid.
Me too, Martin. Me too, Martin. Got a couple of them.
Yeah. So 4 over braid will help that. Tuning it correctly will help that. Knowing how to tune it. I don't know if I mentioned this, but if it's running to the side, just look at your wire and bend it a little bit toward whatever side that it's running. And sometimes it can be, so there's 2 different ways to look at it too. You can look at this bottom wire and make sure that that's straight in line with the hook, or you can look at this up here, because sometimes it'll get, especially if you catch the fish, it'll get like twisted and it'll get off to the side, and then you gotta kind of bend that back over. So a good rule of thumb, make sure that your hook and all of your wire are all in a straight line.
For the record, not a big fan of the Jamaican boa.
No, I've never fished one.
Not a big fan of it. It's a nice buzzbait. It's just not. So I'll be honest. A Booyah buzzbait, the buzzbait that they sell at Walmart with the clacker, it's a good buzzbait.
Big mouth.
You watch a lot of buzzbait shows and you will see Booyah makes a good buzzbait and it's cheap.
This is really
and the Jamaican boa did not impress me. I caught more fish on the booyah.
big mouth lures is really the only buzzbait that I throw. Again, bigmouthlures.com. Check them out.
Big
Barnes.
Mouth.
Maybe that's what
Lures.
happened to me, Martin, because
I think we need
So-
to get in contact with Big Mouth Lures.
Should. He's Brian's a good dude. He's a friend of mine, and he makes some really, really awesome beats.
Yeah.
so he's local guy.
He's on Eastern Shore.
Mm-hmm.
But he makes pretty much the only buzzbait that I throw. And I don't throw anything but his spinnerbaits. I don't own it. I don't own, or well, I won't say I won't own because I do have some, but nothing that's in my boat as far as spinnerbaits.
Nothing tied on.
Would you happen to have
Nothing in
one
my
of his
boat.
spinner
Nothing
baits?
that I carry on my boat is.
Do you have one of his
is not-
spinner baits?
No.
No. Ah, damn.
No, I don't have any spinnerbaits. They're all packed away, ready to go to New York.
We already did a spinner bait show, so.
So
Yeah, Paul's headed up to New York. Smallmouth fishing.
So,
Uh-oh.
I mean, we talked about line. We talked about here. So let's talk about the rod.
Oh,
So
there
what are
you
you
go.
throwing? What are you throwing in a buzzbait? So
7'3", medium.
7.1 to 7.3, medium heavy,
Mhm.
always. You want that 7.1 to 7.3. That's kind of
Fully
like
agree.
it's like the perfect length for buzzbait fishing.
It's
Gives you
not.
enough rod to really to make it long cast and to keep the rod tip up. You have to keep the rod tip up when you're fishing a buzzbait.
Fast action too.
If you keep it down, the buzzbait's going to tend to want to pull under the water. So you got to keep the rod tip up.
Fast action.
Fast action. You know, it's nothing special. This is my do everything rod. This is a St. Croix Victory 7.1 medium heavy. It's called the Grunt, and I quickly figured out this year after buying this rod why they call it the Grunt, because it will literally do anything.
Yeah.
That's 7'1".
7.1. I throw
7.1
on
medium
it.
heavy.
7.1 medium heavy. I throw
Which is
chatterbaits on it. I throw
kinda,
soft plastics
right.
on it. I throw spinnerbaits on it.
Kind
I
of like
throw
your all around.
buzzbaits on it. And I can literally do anything with this rod.
Is it a mod fast or is it a fast action?
Fast.
It's a fast
So
action.
7'3", medium heavy, fast action is my go-to rod for a lot of lures. A lot.
agree with
It's
that.
Me as
kind
well.
of
Me as
almost
well.
all around.
I do notice with my longer arms and stuff
tall.
though, like the 7.3, I tend to hit my rod tip into the water a lot of
So
times.
you're like a
So
little
I'm-
bit shorter.
I do. A lot of times I'm using walking baits and stuff like that where my rod tip needs to be real low. With my longer arms, a lot of times my rod tip hits the water. So I'm starting to learn that, excuse me, as I update some of my rod, as I update some of my rod combos, I'm starting to actually shorten my rods a little bit
Right.
I
for
will
that
tell you,
reason.
if you talk about walking baits, so if I'm throwing a big spook, I throw on like a 7.1. But most of my top waters, if I'm throwing a popper,
6.6.
exactly. If I'm throwing a popper, if I'm throwing a small
Too much
walking bait,
juice.
if I'm throwing a prop bait, I'm throwing on a 6.6.
Easier. It's easier on your arms.
The other
It's
thing that it
easier
does,
on all.
way
I'm sure.
the shorter the rod, the more accurate the cast is.
And
So,
me and
if I'm fishing a
Paul.
popper around like wood and stuff like that,
See,
Me
shorter
and
rods,
Paul
more
if you're
talked
on a
about
popper
this.
or a frog, but if you're throwing, for me, like a lot of times I throw a walking bait. And
You need a
walking
little
bait,
bit.
so I'm just
But
trying
you
to
don't want
cover
a long
water with
handle.
a walking bait.
You
Like
don't
a
want a long
spoon
handle.
That's why I
or
throw-
something like that.
so that's why I throw a spook on a 7.1.
But you don't
Yeah.
want a long handle because when you're trying to walk it, the handle starts. It's easier to walk
That
it with
doesn't
a
matter.
shorter handle. To me,
Doesn't
Me
bother
and
It's all
me.
Paul-
personal.
and
That's
Paul-
personal. Yeah,
it's personal preference. But me and Paul have talked about this before.
I walk a lunker punker with an
After
8-inch rod
after
with an 8-foot
fishing a
rod.
very long time, you start to develop tennis elbow.
I do. I have tennis elbow pretty bad.
Me too. And
But
both of
You're
them.
such a hardcore fisherman.
it's
No,
you
it
know,
will.
I can tell you.
You can laugh now.
I can tell you
but, yeah,
I can tell you
uh,
exactly.
uh,
So it's because I fish so much. I fish chatterbaits and grass so much from ripping chatterbaits through the grass.
just casting, you will get tennis elbow.
I mean, it's in my left arm. So
I haven't used.
I can't-
I had a lot.
Computer just shut. We're still live.
Oh, we're
are
still
we still
live.
live?
Yeah, yeah, hang on. The screen just has to turn on.
You will develop tennis elbow if you fish enough. It's happens.
Hey, there we go.
technical difficulties, but we are.
So
Look, we're frozen.
we are frozen.
Look at Paul.
I'm like, like I'm. Oh,
There we go. We're live again.
So
Yeah, we're good.
yeah, we're a little behind there. No, we're still frozen. I'm pretty sure we're still frozen.
I think we're just
No,
frozen.
yeah,
on
we're
the
still frozen.
Studio app, but on Facebook Live we look.
No, we are definitely froze on Facebook Live.
Oh dear.
Sometimes.
Should happen.
Can you guys hear us?
There we go.
There we
got a
go.
whole lot of people on.
Okay.
So there's a delay on the Facebook, but we should be good.
Yeah, we're good now. Oh, so
No, see, dang.
what were we just saying?
We were talking about tennis elbow.
Oh, tennis
we were
elbow.
talking about
So-
rod length and.
So tennis elbow, I have tennis elbow pretty bad in my left arm, and it's 100% completely from fishing chatterbaits.
I have it. I have a
fished-
lump
I mean, for when I
on my
so
elbow.
for until this year, really, I didn't fish a lot of tournaments on the Upper Bay this year, but I fished so many tournaments on the Upper Bay, and it's all grass fishing, it's all ripping chatterbaits out of the grass.
Carpal tunnel. It's another thing.
Carp. Old tunnel.
Is that from
Carp?
catching too many carp, Martin?
Carp.
You snag too many
Carp.
carp.
So my,
So I got tennis elbow pretty bad, and it sucks.
my
Yeah,
entire
no, I got it too.
my entire right shoulder blade is gone.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I think I
People
showed
don't
it to
think
you.
fishing-
You
one
know
of the
what, brother?
physical
I don't even.
sport.
It's from a fishing rod. No, it's because
It's-
you go
it's
home and
not.
lift 400
It's
pounds
definitely
every
not.
night. That's from what yours is from.
I wish these private give me a hard time.
incredible.
Like,
I'm the Hawk Hogan on
Yeah, brother.
you guys would see it. Like if I were to go pick up two of the old school lead acid batteries, the right arm would hang down about 4 inches.
Dude, I'm
It's
almost
fine.
50 years old.
Maybe you should go get that checked out.
I already did, and they said it's too far gone unless I'm willing to do surgery. You guys might as well just deal with it. And I was like, that sounds like a better idea. I won't miss any.
Yeah,
I don't get any of that
And
checked
he's
out
still
because I
gonna
don't
go
go looking for
home.
trouble.
In
And-
10 years, you're gonna wish you had that surgery.
He's
Oh,
still
wow.
going to go home and use his fucked up arm to lift 500 pounds over the top.
I was totally going a different direction with that, with him going home and using that arm. But
Ah!
Oh Jesus Christ!
hey, careful, you're gonna.
The laptop's gonna shut again.
You gotta shut the
Oh,
laptop.
man.
He needs that
Got
for his
carried
big
away.
porn later.
Got carried away.
So we talked about.
Oh, his face.
So
Oh, man.
the only thing I didn't really talk about was where to fish buzzbait. So not everybody knows. Not everybody knows
Skadoosh.
where to fish a buzzbait.
Anywhere.
So
Yeah.
most people,
Yeah,
it's
I
not.
would say anywhere.
It's not just a grass bait.
You
a lot
can
of
say
Saying
around wood.
anywhere. That's bullshit. You
Around
can't
wood.
fish a buzzbait in 50 feet.
Andy Montgomery.
That may not be true. You
Depends
can
on
go
how-
all-
Depends on how
90%
clear
of
the
the
water
time,
is.
that is true.
Well, yes.
Depends on how clear the water is.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not the best bait for it.
So there's
So
a
you would do a
So
walking bait.
most people think, they think of buzzbaits and think grass. You can throw.
Martin.
I had to get Maria there. So, you can throw. You want anywhere shallow is a good place to throw a buzzbait. I mean that for real. Anywhere shallow, like it doesn't matter if it's rock. It doesn't matter if it's wood, if it's grass, if it's less than 5 feet of water, throw a buzzbait. Certain times of the year, obviously, don't go down a bank, throw a buzzbait in the summertime. That on a bank that doesn't have any grass on it. There's probably not fish there. So that's not a buzzbait problem. That's a fish problem. But if you have fish on a grass flat and it is high tide, great time to throw a buzzbait
Around wood.
around wood. Love throwing a buzzbait around wood, especially in dirty water. Docks.
Paul loves wood.
Docks are a great place to throw a buzzbait.
Or a swim bait.
And the biggest tip that I can give you about throwing a buzzbait or where to throw a buzzbait, throw it in places that you don't think other people will throw a buzzbait. That's why we skip buzzbaits. We skip buzzbaits to be able to put a buzzbait where a buzzbait has never been before. So I can skip a buzzbait way up under a dock. Those
It's
fish
a
under
reaction.
Can
buddy.
definitely
fish
agree
under a
with
dock.
that.
Fish under a dock haven't seen a buzz. Not many buzzbaits come over a fish's head up underneath the dock.
It's been 20 years since I've seen a buzzbait underneath fish.
Pick up where they eat it.
Overhanging trees. You got overhanging trees. You can skip that buzzbait up under those overhanging trees, and that's not only. I mean, that's a tough place to get anybody. People are skipping Senkos up under there, maybe skipping a jig up under there. But how many topwater lures can you skip up under there? 2 that I know of. Like I can't skip anything. I can skip a buzzbait. I can skip a frog.
Putting that different presence and that different profile and that different
there's
scenario
that
that I used to.
DLB. You think they're more like what? The buzzbait goes by on the dock and they're like, what the hell was that?
It's a reaction. So buzzbait bites are 100% a reaction bite.
Yeah.
So they're coming by. There's something on the surface, and they're just going to eat it.
Yep, it's making noise. It pissed them off. It caught their attention. Boom.
Or they was just like reacted to it.
Think of it like this. Think of it like
another.
this. Right? And this is the best analogy for this. Okay. You're scrolling through Instagram and you see a model and you just happen to comment the fire emoji. It's the same thing.
Right.
You've seen it, you reacted to it, and now you're like, I committed to this.
I don't do that to anyone.
So you can't do that. He can't.
Oh, no, I can.
I can.
Jesus.
Just because you're married don't mean you're dead.
Right.
To you it does.
No,
So-
my wife is right. No, we're good. Like,
So it is a reaction.
Fire emoji. If
I love my wife very much.
Yeah, me too. But it's not like.
So
I'm not
you're right. So a buzzbait is it's a reaction bite, and that's why it's a very good pre-fishing tool.
Agreed.
Because you can cover so much water.
Yeah.
Quickly. Frog fishing. I said the same thing about toads versus a hollow belly. Think about how long it takes you to work a cast with a hollow belly. You're working it where you're working.
Like a 3-to-1 ratio.
Right.
You
So I can make
keep
5
moving.
I can make 5 casts with a buzzbait for every 1 cast with a. And if I'm pre-fishing, I'm not worried so much about catching fish, and I'm just looking to locate fish. So if I can get a couple of bites, like I know there's fish in the area, I'm not really concerned with catching the fish. In fact, I'd prefer not to catch them because most of the time, if it's a day before a tournament, if I catch that fish the day before, that fish is not eaten on tournament day. Most of the time.
Is it like is it like flipping for you, Paul? For like me personally, like I can go down the bank with like a spinnerbait or something. Once I start catching them, I will stop in that area and start picking it apart. So you could use a buzzbait as a search bait, and then once you start getting some blow ups, you can start picking it more apart with a frog. You can slow it down or something
Absolutely.
like that.
Yep, I do the same thing. It's all about using pre-fishing for a tournament is all about being efficient.
Yep.
And being able to cover as much water as you can, and being able not only
Eliminate
to
bad
exactly
water.
not only to find fish, but to eliminate area. I can go out and pre-fish for 2 days and not catch a fish.
You're eliminating a lot of water that you're not going to go.
Guess what?
Yeah.
I have 2 days worth of fishing that I know where not to fish.
Right. Yeah.
So it's
Right.
it's not like it's completely not catching the fish is completely.
No, I think that's very important. Because if you have spots on any bird, and you know it, you may catch one here, you may not, but that's not the juice. This is the juice. You can skip this, you can go to that, and you kind of know. You know what I mean? And you eliminate all that bad.
So it's for me,
low
it's all-
percentage areas. The high percentage areas, so you can hit those up. And like, if you're not getting bit here,
right. So if I have
this ain't going to be the deal.
Say we have you have historical spots, and I did not use those historical spots to justify where I was pre-fishing.
My whole downfall.
But if I pre-fish and I never hit any one of those historically good spots, and I pre-fish and I didn't fucking catch anything, guess where I'm going? I'm going to go to those historical spots because I eliminated all this new water. So
Right.
they typically hold here, so now I'm going to fish here.
Right.
You use that practice time to eliminate water. I mean, there are certain places, like on certain bodies of water, there are specific spots that I absolutely will not touch pre-fishing.
Dustin's 100%.
Yeah, you're right, Dustin.
I
If you don't
totally
know how to process the information that you gain from pre-fishing, it absolutely can mess you up.
Yeah.
Because some people will go out and they'll pre-fish and they'll get it, man, I didn't catch a fish, and it changes their whole attitude. That I don't know what to do.
I'm totally
confused.
guilty of that.
I'm sure you guys will
I'm
agree,
totally.
but
If I go
we
out and
fish tidal
pre-fish
water.
2 days before, or a day or 2 days before we fished the tournament, and I didn't like catch anything, or my bite was real slow,
Right.
dude, it screws my mentality up
But on
when
our
it comes
rivers,
time to do the tournament. It
on our
does.
rivers, Paul knows
I
this,
question every move I make.
and
Is this the right move?
you guys know this, but on our river, if you go pre-fish 2 days before, well, that's 2 hours difference in
Yeah,
tide.
any tidal water here is
It's
gonna
2
be
hour
different
difference
than
by tournament day. So it's like you're not fishing. It's very hard to pre-fish tidal water.
It is, but it isn't. So it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't. If I'm out pre-fishing, I don't care what the tide is because I'm just trying to locate fish.
Right.
If I know there's fish in the area, because I I have a pretty good understanding of fish movement and what fish do on different tides. I'm confident that I can, if I locate some fish, just locate. I might not whack them in practice, but if I can locate them, I'll figure out how to catch them on different tides. If I have to fish a different tide.
Well, you're so
Fish. So here,
you don't
I'll
think
let
they
this-
move with the tide.
I'll let this out. Fish tidal water is not that hard. Water comes up, they move. They move up. Water comes down, they move out.
Yep.
That's it.
Yes.
Yep.
No.
That's it. Tidal water. People now, do they eat better on different? If they eat better on, do they eat better on different tides? Absolutely.
Outgoing.
But as far as where
Giving up
depends
all
on
the
where
juice.
depends on where you're at. I can show you places where an incoming tide's better.
So
I
I've
can
been
show you
having better
I
luck.
can show you times of the year that an incoming.
I've been having better luck on incoming lately, honestly. To be honest.
I mean, I can show you.
I was an outgoing tide guy, but incoming's been better to me lately. So.
I can show you places within the gunpowder that fish better on different tides. Without even leaving the gunpowder.
Well, yeah, of course.
Certain places fish better on different tides. It just that's just how the bite's been. But you can't always you can't let history say, oh, the incoming that outgoing tide is always the last 2 hours of outgoing tide. That's always the best.
I don't
that goes
believe
back to
that
changing
anyways,
your
but yes, I know what you're saying.
In
That's
some-
the story.
in some places.
First
it
hour
absolutely is.
incoming, last hour outgoing. They say, but I don't agree with that at all.
It's usually statistically, it's probably is the best overall, not including certain spots. If you go overall, you take like 100 guys that are out on the upper bay and you ask them when they caught the most of their fish, you're probably going to see that most of them last 2 hours of the outgoing or the first 2 hours of the incoming.
We're not trying to get up too much juice, but I would say incoming tide on the grass, outgoing on the wood.
Depends on where you're at.
I'm just saying.
I mean, it all depends on where you're at. It depends on the fish that you're fishing.
I have found success on incoming tides in different areas where I find no fish in other areas.
So all
Like,
the time,
they focus completely on different points in different areas on
Absolutely.
incoming tide compared to an outgoing tide.
Well, some of
I
those
know-
real
I know
shallow
the-
areas.
I know the spot you're talking.
Yeah,
the
we
spot
know
you're
the spot
talking
you're
about,
talking about.
and if you think about it, it's the current. Like the current's
Oh,
positioning
yeah.
those fish.
Yeah.
So you have the current, that really rolls into that area, and it positions those fish.
It
Well,
pushes
some of those
fish
real
right in
shallow
there.
spots, you need the tide to come in. You don't have enough water to be even in those when it's going out.
Yeah, that's
They
true. And
gotta
sometimes
move with
that
it.
when you have those first couple of hours incoming tide, when that tide starts creeping up on that wood that might be too shallow on the low
Right.
tide.
Yeah.
I fished a tournament on the bush a couple weekends ago, and it's exactly that. When the tide sucked out, I caught them out in the middle of a flat on wood. When the tide came in, I caught them up on the bank on wood.
Right.
They just moved from the flat. They moved up with the tide.
Right.
Tide didn't matter. I could catch them on any. I mean, I caught them on every, all throughout the day, and tide didn't really matter. It was just a matter of, to me, tide is more about fish positioning and knowing how the fish position on different tides.
Right. Which
So-
side of the wood they'll set up on, or how they will set up in the
Which
grass.
side of the wood, or maybe they won't even sit on that, on that
Well,
piece
that's
of
what I'm
wood. They
saying.
won't sit on that piece of wood on an outgoing tide.
Yeah, I'm very,
They
very,
might,
I'm very
but on an incoming tide, they'll fish on that. They'll sit on that piece of wood.
depending on-
And that's I've noticed that a lot in a lot of different areas. That if you're in a river system, the direction the piece of wood is facing will make it better on an incoming or an outgoing tide.
Because they want to set up
Yeah.
an ambush. So
Because
depending on what side
breaks
you
up
set
If
up.
if you got a tree that's like this and the outgoing tide's coming across like this, that's that wood seems to be better on an outgoing tide. When the tide's coming in like this, it doesn't. it just doesn't fish as well.
So to answer Deborah's question, I'm not sure that's a lot of math, but I know it's an hour difference every day.
Just
So
about, Deborah.
every 2 weeks.
So the tides are pretty close to the same every 2 weeks, but a lot of times,
But then you got to pre-fish 2 weeks ahead of time, and you got a lot of other variables.
Weather pending.
Right.
well, and then sometimes you have moon
full
phase.
moon.
Moon
Full
phase
moon.
makes a difference on
Right.
how high the water comes. But typically, if you have a low tide at 12 o'clock on a Saturday, 2 weeks from then you'll have low tide on 12 o'clock. Yep.
Gotcha. And the moon, you're right, though. The moon.
But the
If you-
moon phase
if you
makes
see
a
a
big
full
difference.
moon, you know you're gonna have a flood tide.
Because you're going to have higher water levels. So it's a similar tide, but there's also different levels to the tide. It's based on the moon phase, based on wind.
I have heard
the
it's
wind might
not
blow the tide
really.
out. Moon might pull the tide out.
It's not really actually the moon, from what I understand. It's more the way the Earth rotates. So when you have those full moons, it has something to do more with like the rotation of the Earth, which brings us the high tide that we get on the flooded tide that we get on full moons. According to Frank Scalish. That's what I heard it.
I don't know. I'm not a physicist, so.
Me neither.
So
But apparently it's not the moon, it's more the Earth rotation. But the full moon will tell you you're gonna have a high tide.
So Tony, on the super secret juice from recently,
We're giving up super secret juice.
how has it's not super secret juice because all freaking 20 boats have been fishing it recently. Yes. Okay.
How is a buzzbait come into play?
Well, your tides. We fished different tides at different points in the tournament so far. So, like, how has that affected your fishing in the general area
Plead
as
the
far
fifth.
as tides go?
Plead the fifth.
You can plead
the
the
fifth.
fifth if you want
I
to,
will
but
You can't
nobody
fall for-
nobody
yeah,
can
for
sit here and
the
say they don't know where you've been fishing.
So I'll be.
Oh no! I'm just saying that
I'm sure there's like
Giving
one
them
or two people that
how
might
you're
not
fishing
still
different
know.
tides in certain areas.
Yeah,
I
no,
wouldn't
so-
give up that info.
So I
I'm
don't
not
want you to go
gonna-
too deep. What I'm trying to say is like,
Has the tide
is it
changed
worse
enough
on?
for-
Has it just been like on some of the like ingoing tides? Has it just been slower on some of the outgoing
What
tides?
I
Has it
will
been
say,
better?
and because Paul's right, I don't want to give it up because there's a lot of people fishing it, but there's not a lot of people catching them there. So I can't give up my juice, but there's a tide that I like. Now
People that fished your juice placed in the tournament last week.
they didn't catch them there.
Yeah,
They didn't catch them there.
Yeah, they didn't catch them.
Believe me, I kept an eye on it. They
I
didn't
won't say
catch
too
them there.
much about it.
But
Can we include that in the boat ramp etiquette episode?
yes,
Yes.
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 Can we
Yes.
include? Can we just make it?
So,
I mean,
tournament,
dude,
Can we
I'm
just
telling
make
you,
it boating etiquette?
dude, Fridays
boating and fishing
Friday's
etiquette.
Friday's
shenanigans episode is going to go off the wall. We're going to talk
Oh my
about boat ramp etiquette, and we're going to talk about some of the tournament etiquette that
So
goes on.
back to your
Just boating
question.
etiquette in general.
So
Yes.
back to your question. There's a
Don't be a
certain
douchebag.
There's a certain tide that I like, and with that tide, I feel more confident in 3 or 4 different baits. With the tide that I don't like, it's limited down to like 2, maybe. It's really 1, maybe 2.
Your main go-to bait.
It's all you don't put it down.
So
And
the
you
slack.
just
So is
have
the slack
confidence.
is the slack tide good for you?
I wouldn't say it's good for anyone.
Right.
That being said, since this is an evening tournament, I know that no matter what time the tide is, no matter what it's doing, I can always, unless there's a tornado like there was last week on the fucking water, like I can almost count on the fact that I'm going to get 2 or 3 bites between 8:10 and probably 8:05 and 8:15, like no matter what.
I won't say too much, but have you?
No matter what tide.
Yeah,
When's the last time you fished it?
When's the last
This week?
Thursday?
Right.
Last Thursday. Yep.
Just curious.
I haven't fished it once. I've been out there multiple times, and like obviously every time I go past it, I'm like, okay, well,
It's so, that's what I was
there.
kind
But
of
like,
asking.
every time I look around,
Spent a
like
lot of
I
boats
don't
out
go
there.
there, but there's been a lot of boats out there. There's been a lot of boats
More like from last
hanging
week
around
on?
general area.
Over the weekend.
Martin made a good
Over
comment
the
there.
weekend.
So Martin says he practices during the week and tries to mimic the tide for the tournament. I
Right.
do that a lot too. So if I know, our Thursday nighters at 5:30, I might try to go, try to get out at like
4:30.
2:30 on Monday.
I got you. Yeah.
So that I can fish a similar tide so that I just kind of get an idea.
It's kind of what you got to do on tidal water.
Yeah, exactly. So if I go out if the tournament's on Thursday, I go out on Monday. I try to fish 3 or 4 hours early.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
3 or 4 hours earlier.
So you're kind of fishing similar conditions, similar times. You can't practice for the weather conditions.
Now, the other thing I'll say is regarding the area. I kind of got it broken down into 3 areas within an area, and out of those 3 areas, one of the 3 has been hit by another boat.
Oh yeah,
One of the 3.
oh I see what you're saying. You got some sneak spots.
I got juice on the juice right now. Now that doesn't mean shit for Thursday.
I
Yeah, there's
haven't
always
seen.
little spots
I mean,
inside
I
the
haven't
spots.
seen.
I'm not going to be like,
He's
hey, I'm
talking
just
about
following
spots
you.
within the
Well,
spots.
When I'm telling you spots within the spots,
So
it's a cast.
certain grass mats, certain.
Understand.
How can you have
channels,
spots
things like
within the spots when you don't move 15 feet off the spot you set down on when you friggin' land?
He moves more than 15.
I move
Well,
like more
around.
than 15 feet. But
I
it's not,
watch you. It
what
ain't that
Tony
far- it
said
ain't that
is he's
far.
got some sneak spots up
There-
in his back
if you,
pocket.
like-
if somebody wants to try to blow up
and
his
this-
main spot,
this
you
is
don't go
this is
them off.
grass fishing no matter what. If you guys fish with me, you fish with me. I fish with Paul. I fish with everybody here.
Yeah,
Like
No, you fish with
I
the other Chad.
will make
no, me and you never actually.
I will make the same cast 10, 20, 30 casts in a row
because you're confident.
because
You
I know
they're there.
I'm going to catch one
You know,
Yeah, I
right there,
I can't do that.
and it'll happen. Like it's
Cannot
happened
do
for us every tournament the last
no, I could do that.
like.
I can't.
And then the thing of it is like the area is.
I might
is-
hit that spot 20 times.
The fish
Now-
move.
Paul
Now-
be there, back, and then it'd be back to
Okay,
it.
Now the area is the same, but the catch spots within the area has changed. That's what I'm saying. There's 3 kind of spots within the spots.
Martin says you got a meeting Thursday.
Well, I won't be there. Why would? No offense to the club, but why would I? Why would
Oh, I see what you're saying. You won't be at the meeting.
Yeah,
You're gonna be at
right.
It's
the
okay,
tournament.
Martin. You don't have to go either.
I thought you
can-
meant
can
you
come
won't
to
be at
the
the tournament.
Oh no, I'll be.
Why would I
go?
go? Right, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There's always going to be spots within the spot, and that's the thing that you have to learn in knowing. Once you figure out like how the fish are holding, you can pretty much call your shots and like know where you're going to.
There should be some
That's what
integrity
hunters do.
involved, though. Like, people, come on. Like, Paul knows some juice that I'm on now, and he told me today, he said, I purposely did not fish it because I know where you were fishing. I know what you were doing, and I'm not going to do that. And that's how it should be. I mean, come on.
Me and Paul have a gentleman's agreement with Gunpowder. Whenever we fish a
Everybody.
tournament against each other,
Me and Tony usually talk. I mean, we fish together so much on the gunpowder. We usually talk about where we're going to fish. And
Yeah.
it'd be like, if it's like a spot that Tony showed me, I'd be like, "Are you going to fish there?" And he's like, "No." I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm fishing there."
Yep.
I feel confident.
Same thing.
I feel confident that I could do that with you guys. So we do
Yeah,
that.
hell
Like,
yeah.
I'll tell you guys know. Like, I tell people all the time, like, well, certain people are going to know. If I post this picture, certain people are going to know
Right.
where I'm at, what I'm doing, but they're not the people that are going to go and smash it
Right.
and be like, oh, I know what he's doing and run to my spot and do it. And I want to do
Well,
that to you.
again,
all the
I
time.
would. I will tell you that the picture that you posted this week is very telling, and there's a
I
lot
know.
of people on your Facebook.
That's
I
going to
know,
help my
I
spot
know,
so
I know.
much. Thank you.
I almost did not. I almost did not post it. I had told Kevin,
So-
I probably shouldn't post this.
I'm not.
Nah, whatever.
It's.
Yeah, that's how
And
I
I'm
was.
all
I was
about.
like,
Posting.
whatever.
I'm all about. I'm all about posting pictures.
But it
I don't
is very
care.
telling. I know.
But there's, there's a lot of people out there that are just like I mean, there's people that will look at the reflection in your sun, blow up your picture, look at the reflection in your, in your sunglasses to try to figure out where you're fishing.
Yeah, Martin Pauls gave me up some. He gave some juice to me too. So here's the thing. It's like what Tony said. You still got to be able to go catch them.
Yeah.
Like
For
I know
sure.
where Tony fishes. That don't mean I can go out there with a frog and catch them like Tony can. He's way better fishing a frog than
But
I
if you
am.
know where if you know where there's fish, I mean, you're a good fisherman. That doesn't mean maybe you don't catch them on a frog like he does. Maybe you catch them on a swim jig.
Yeah.
True. True.
You catch them your way.
I gotta say that bite is gonna be completely different.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it is.
There's going to be a time where my bite's gone and yours is on fire.
Right.
Then I'm
You
going to be playing
Well,
catch up.
in the
Right.
past 3 weeks, that hasn't happened.
Well,
But it does.
Doesn't-
happen.
it doesn't
But
matter.
this happens every year. Like we go through this all the time. There's been times where what I do has been fire. Then it's like what Paul does is fire. Tony's fire. Like it's how it is. That's what I told you. Like you'll one day the swim bait But he's going to be fired. You're going to murder him with giant swim baits, and he's going to be like, "Holy shit!"
Dude, the day that I bring back a limit and a full ass bag on an 8-inch swim bait is going to be the day.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Exactly.
It's going to happen. Trust me. If you stick with it and you're confident, and
Because it's going to be like 15 pounds.
Yeah. Oh,
Dude,
yeah. He's
it's
going to have like
be
the biggest
15
bag
pounds
ever
in
saw.
3 fish. It's going to be insane.
It's like
One day it will happen, but I gotta get Tom to fix my rod from Tom's Custom Rods.
either that or you're
I
going
gotta
to
get him to build me. I want to get him.
you're going to catch some fish that are smaller than the bait. The bait's bigger
Dude, I
than they are.
have.
Yeah. No, it'll happen. But that's what that is.
Yeah,
it's
Martin.
fishing. It's
Martin,
fishing.
I talk too much. I know,
We all do.
but for the most part, like I don't.
But that's the point.
I don't care that much. Like there's like I'm not, especially on the gunpowder. Like I'll tell most people, hey,
I give up a lot
whatever
of
they want to
juice,
know
but
about
I
the
don't-
gunpowder because I'm not fishing money tournaments on gunpowder.
But
They're
you
not.
know,
They're not going to fish it the way you fish it.
that's my point.
These yeah,
Like I know what
these
Tony
Thursday-
fishes all day, but I'm not.
These Thursday nighters,
That doesn't
I
mean
just,
I can go out there and do what he
yeah,
does.
it's a money tournament, but I just fish them for fun.
Let's
Like,
take a little skill.
it's not like I'm fishing an ABA where
Not
I'm
just
fishing
know the
for
spot.
like $5,000 or something like that. Like I'll help people out on certain bodies of water that I don't fish regularly. Like,
Well, here's the thing.
if I'm fishing on the flats, nope.
Here's the thing, Paul.
I got juice on the flats and nobody will ever know.
Here's the thing. Gunpowder, springtime, everybody knows where to go. And we all fish it, and everybody fishes it. I'm not going to say it on air, but I mean, how many? There's 50 boats there. You still got to be the one that catches them.
Yeah.
Everybody knows where to go. Everybody knows where they're
You
at.
also, you also can, be on the other end. Guys like us that fish it all the time know that you can catch a big bag other places too.
Well, yeah. But my point being is,
And I would rather go to those places than fish with 50 other.
I
boats.
agree.
Yes, I
but
agree.
but my point is that it doesn't matter that 50 boats know where that's at. You still got to be the guy that can
Well, it's
catch
still-
them out of those 50
It's still a
boats.
large area. It's not like
Right.
okay. So for example, maybe I have like on
I see what
Conowingo.
Yeah.
I have one rock pile out there, and this is totally not factual at all. I'm just making this up. So I got one rock pile on Conowingo that holds 4 pound, multiple 4 pound smallmouth all the time. It's good staging area, pre-spawn area. It's one specific spot. Telling people about that one specific
Yeah, it's a little
spot
different.
is a little different than telling
Yeah.
someone about, like the quarry. The quarry in the springtime. Everybody knows bass spawn in the quarry. Everybody knows it has fish. It's still a relatively big area, and there's a lot of spots within that area.
That's true.
Yep.
But if I tell you about one rock pile that you're guaranteed to get a 4 pound smallmouth off of,
Good point.
If you're giving them
Good point.
freaking
Good point.
GPS coordinates on the spot,
Like, I'll
it's
give you-
different.
Waypoints.
like
Let's get some waypoints, Paul.
so
Come on, man.
I'll give you waypoints for like grass, but I'm not giving you waypoints for a fucking rock pile that I found, that I spent 8 hours side scanning to
Right.
find.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you that juice, but I'll help you out. I'll tell you, okay, like last year, I told Mark I wasn't able to fish the solstice last year because of conflict with another tournament. I would have got DQ'd from the tournament the next day. I did not because I had an ABA the following day on the Upper Bay. I couldn't be on the water, so I didn't fish it.
You told Martin.
I told Martin and Clint, I was like, hey, if you I know you guys have been over there, but this is where you need to go because it's the gunpowder. It was an area. I didn't say go to this GPS coordinate and fish this one particular spot. It's an area.
Right.
They still got to figure out that area. It's
Kind of
it's
being
not a
my
large
point.
area, but it's not a small area. Like you said,
Right.
you still got to figure out how to catch it.
Right.
Like even if I tell you where they're at, you still got to figure out how. You still got to figure out how to catch them.
Look, I know where Tony been fishing, and I know what he's been fishing, but I still can't go out there to his spot. It's so hard to catch other people's fish. It's not my style. It's not what I do.
Martin,
You know
it's
what I mean?
okay. I caught that fish the following week. It weighed 5.68 pounds.
I was there.
If me and Tony's trying to
And I
frog
caught it
against
right-
each other,
right in
Tony's
front of
winning that
Tony.
battle. That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
Yeah, against most people that's trying to.
Well,
frog.
and
And I'm pretty
again,
sure it still had Clint's Senko in its mouth.
it's
There was definitely, I don't know if I broke one
Want the
off
Senko
right
back?
before, but it could have been mine, could have been Clint's. There was a Senko down this fish's throat. That's all I'm saying.
to Rob's point, and I know we're getting kind of close to the end here, but it is an uphill battle when like somebody else in that field is always on fish.
Oh yeah.
Because I think it puts, and again, these tournaments are fun and they're just, oh, let's go hang out with the boys and go fishing. But it's also pressure.
People ask me,
Oh yeah, hell yeah, Dustin, back channel flats.
Yeah, back channel at Furnace Bay. That's where you'll find. But for real though, like it's definitely like it plays to my mind on these Thursday nighters, regardless of what I did last week of who else is out there, because it puts the pressure on. Like last week, we come in with I knew I had about 7.5 pounds, but it's ain't enough to win. It's just not. Like I know who's out here.
You might have a
fishing,
chance. That would be like a maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I won.
That would be a maybe bag.
I won one of the Thursday nighters this year with just over 7 pounds.
Yeah.
7.07.
Yeah, that bag would be like, oh, we might have it. Depends on if everybody called them or not.
If it's a
Nobody
tough
called
play.
them, we might have it. And you did. You were in the money.
Sure. Now the
Second
tournament
place,
we had
Third
9.
place, second place, third place. Where were you?
We had second.
Second place.
Tony's been in the money like what 3 or 4 weeks straight now.
So we got
Yeah,
a
every
first.
tournament.
We got a first and 2 seconds.
Right.
So we missed the first. I guess it was the first Thursday nighter after the.
And the
solstice.
one I had a second. Did you place?
That was the one that Richie and the first one was the one Richie and Matt won.
Did you place in the one where I had a second? I don't know.
No.
I think it was
no.
right after that you went on a winning streak and just.
That was the first.
So
one.
we've
smacked
either
yourself up.
we either
I think
weren't
that
in
was
the
the first
money.
one they were second. I
Yeah.
think I won the second one.
So we weren't in the money.
I
the
was
first
second.
2.
You won. I think.
So the one that you won actually.
That was the one that was blown out. We had
Yes.
like 18 inches of rain that week.
Yep. So
And
the
it,
one.
everything was muddy.
I want to say me and Hippie
Yep.
Gibbs were second in that.
So the one that Paul won, yeah, that was the one. So it was the
Uh,
one after the solstice. We came in with 2 fish, but that was the first clue. The one after that is when Paul won it, and we didn't have the winning fish, but we saw the winning fish.
Yeah, second.
We didn't get any money. So the first 2
It
solstice
was
tournaments
a
we didn't
roll
get
after that.
Now, but the tournament that Paul won, I found my spot, and I was like, it can be done here, and
Right.
it's been done there for the last 3 weeks.
And I actually, to Tony's event, like I won that tournament 50 yards from him. I mean, we were in the same spot.
And I believe the one that Kevin won, he was out in the same area.
But
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say
But
it
I went
out
on a
loud,
winning streak
but
last year and was nowhere near there. So
some of your biggest threats out on the water are some of the best of your radio sticks. I'm just saying.
It's been
Bass
that
Bear
way.
Radio has been in money all year.
Bass Bay Radio has been in the money.
I can
So-
I can tell you right now.
You had big fish one time.
Between
didn't you?
us,
I had big fish. I haven't gotten in that third place position yet or in that top 3 yet,
But
but
you
I
had
brought
big
in
fish.
big fish
Well,
one
between
time.
everyone sitting here, there's over $1,200, $1,500 won in the solstice tournament.
Oh, yeah.
Easily. I mean, easily.
In the last 2 years?
Oh, you
Just
know,
this
last 2
year.
years?
Oh, just
Just
last 2 years, I was
You've been doing
saying,
it,
dude,
man.
I'm on a roll like you're on now.
I think I had like 1,000.
I'm
I
not
think I
trying
had
to sit on here and
$1,000
talk
last year.
shit.
You're
I'm
on
not
a
trying to
roll
sit
like
on here and
this
talk
right
shit
now.
or anything like that, but the people that are sitting around this table right now aren't dummies. Is basically what I'm trying to say. I can't say. I mean,
I'm just going to follow.
we know what
Tony.
we're talking about.
The first tournament last year, I scooped everything. I had big bag, lunker, and big snakehead.
You went on a roll in the beginning of the year, and I think me and Hippie
Yeah.
Gibbs went on a roll at the end of the year.
well, the first
Yeah,
Yeah,
once I blew my boat up, you guys
he blew his motor up. That's right.
well, the first one
So
last
I
year was out in Middle River, right?
couldn't spend any time on it.
They did one. No, that was the first one. That wasn't
first
the
one.
solstice. It was a couple tournaments
Right. It was
later.
the first Thursday night. It was
First
Oh, the
Thursday
first
night or
Thursday
something.
night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the only one. Thank God.
So, no, that just, Rob, that just goes to show you what time on the water does. When
So-
I could, if you notice how I went, like as soon as I couldn't spend 3 or 4 nights a week on the gunpowder, I started.
That's what happened to me. That's what happened to me when my boat's been acting up, and I'm back on the water now. I've been fishing all week. I've been catching them up. I haven't posted no videos. It's too much juice. So I don't give it up. But
Once you,
I spent every day. I spent the last 5 days on the gunpowder.
Oh, I picked this up
Fishing
because
every day.
that Thursday nighter that I won this year was on this exact.
Calvatron. Right?
So, this goes in with the buzzbait talk. I caught every fish that we weighed in.
Roland Martin's Calvatron.
I think-
We never did get into the helicopter though. Guess that's another thing.
Right.
We don't talk about that.
We'll talk about-
helicopter.
we'll
You
talk
don't
about-
know
It was
this?
a gimmick lure that
It
Roland
was
Martin
made
put
for
out.
TV lure,
So,
made by Roland Martin.
We'll do an episode on that, the Mighty Bite and the Banjo Man.
Oh, the banjo minnows your shit. We are, yeah.
That
And
shit does
what was the
fly.
other one?
Gotta
The
throw
flying
the flying
lure.
lure
The
in
flying
there.
lure. Don't forget the flying lure.
We'll do a tackle talk Tuesday on gimmick baits.
Yeah.
And we'll
Well,
put all the Guggen baits in there as well.
That's the outro.
oh my God.
I see the outro
This
coming.
is the end of episode 3
Kind of like the movie. This
of
is the end.
Tackle Tuesdays. Tonight, we went over. Oh my God. We went over the booze bait, the buzz bait, the booby bait, the titty bait.
What?
It is the tits.
It is the tits.
This
This bait is the tits. Let's just put it that way. We went over colors. We went over size. We went over wire. We went over braid. We went over when to utilize. We went over speed. You can go through and replay this video on YouTube.
Gear.
We went through gear. You can go through and replay this video on YouTube when you're done. And you're going to get all the juice on buzz baits that you could ever imagine, essentially. Go through.
I'd like to give a shout out to Gerald Swindle because most of the stuff that I know about buzz baits is from Gerald Swindle.
I got most of my.
I want to throw it. I just want to give credit where credit's due. Most of what I know about buzz baits, I learned from Gerald.
And Gerald
If
Swindle almost
Gerald
had a
Swindle
W.
gets back to you and says thank you, please let me know.
He almost had a W. He almost had a W with a buzz bait. Was it this year on the Elite Series last year? And most of my information comes from who else but my buddy Epic Eric, and
So,
all his
Epic
buzz bait
Eric.
shows have done. I've learned so much. Yeah.
So Friday we will be live at 8 p.m. per normal. We don't miss a beat. We were 20 minutes late tonight, which I guess is like maybe half of missing a beat. So maybe the heartbeat was like irregular for just a second, but we got right back.
We went to Texas Roadhouse last night, so
Yeah.
So Friday,
Y'all did?
Chad was
No.
indisposed for a few minutes.
Friday at 8 p.m. we are going live. We are going to talk about boat ramp etiquette.
oh boy,
I might have to call in.
Well,
for
we
that
will
one.
be live Thursday from the tournament, or no?
yes.
We will be live Thursday for the tournament for weigh-ins. I don't know if I'm fishing the actual tournament yet, but I will be there for the weigh-ins. I can say that much. And Friday we'll be talking about boat ramp etiquette. We will be talking about
boating etiquette in general.
boating
Just
etiquette
fishing
in
etiquette.
general.
Tournament
Etiquette. We're going to be getting into all that. It's going to be a hot topic. I think a lot of people are going to have a lot to say about this topic. We've all experienced some bad etiquette in our time out on the water, and I want to hear about all of your experiences with bad etiquette. Hey, man, let's all suck it up and just say it. I've done some things that was bad etiquette before.
Oh yeah.
I want to
all
hear. I
done.
want
I've
to
done
hear
it.
those stories too. Suck it up and admit it. You've done some stupid shit before, and I want to hear your stupid shit story.
You want to talk about
That's
stupid
it.
shit? I just realized Skylar's not here. Where's he at?
He's married.
He's married.
Oh my god!
Someone farted.
Is there a frog in here?
There needs to be some Bass and Beer podcast room etiquette.
Love it.
So check us out. Thursday night we'll be live for the weigh-ins for the Thursday night threefer out of Mariner Point. Friday we'll be live at 8 p.m. per normal, talking about boat ramp etiquette, tournament etiquette, boater etiquette in general. I want to see everybody on here, and I want to hear all your stories, the goods and the bad. Don't be scared to come out and tell us about your stupid story, because we all have stupid stories. I'll tell you about my stupid
I'll tell you.
story.
I got a good one.
You know,
I have a good one.
I got a
Yeah,
couple
I got a
good
couple.
ones.
I got a couple.
I almost
for you.
ran a guy into a rock jetty one time because
Nah,
asked
save
if
it.
you go
Save,
around.
Nice.
save it for Friday.
I won't be here Friday, so I can't.
You'll
do
be
Friday.
on. You'll be
I
on.
got
So-
a good one.
But make sure you guys tune
I'll
in.
tell you all.
We really appreciate you guys for watching us and taking your time out of your Tuesday evenings and your Friday nights and your Thursdays to support us and listen to the things that we have to say. Hats off to you guys. We wouldn't do this without you. And
Thanks,
I also want to say a huge thank you to the people that sponsor us and continue to give us lures, that put fish in the boat. They help put content out on this page, and they just help to overall educate us on all of the different types of things that we have going on. So big shout out to Tailored Lures. Tailored Lures sent us some of the new Model D frogs that he came out with to get down to the nitty gritty of those. Shout out to Bass Munitions. some of the best soft plastics in the game, from jig trailers, drop shot. Mr. Larry Payne is going to be working on some like swim bait hooks and everything here soon, some jigs, some weights, and then obviously, as we said earlier, UMA Lure Company. These are the best balsa wood crankbaits on the market.
Absolutely.
It is, as said in the comment below, deflection at its finest, and I guarantee that it's tested and proven that bait is absolutely fire.
Yep.
Before we sign off, I will not be at Tackle Talk Tuesday next week
What? Oh, you're going to New York
because I'm going to be on the St. Lawrence catching giant
Sending
smallmouth.
us some pictures of some big
You know what?
smalls.
So
We
do
can't
like
be
a
mad
Skype
at
thing
Paul.
or something.
Paul's going to be on the St. Lawrence River chasing giant smallmouth next Tuesday for Tackle Talk Tuesdays. So
Are you fishing this?
you can look forward to being with me and Riverboat Rob. Tony, are you in next Tuesday?
I'm in. So this is gonna be Paul. You ready? Biggie Smalls up on the St. Lawrence.
I'm going to
So for you guys that know me, y'all know that every time I catch a big smallmouth, whenever it gets posted, that's a song in the background. No matter what.
Biggie,
I'm going to try to put
Biggie,
some of these
can't you see?
Bass Munitions worms to work up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
See if we can't get a big old smallmouth on these nice little drop shot worms.
Make sure you're ready to go. I would definitely make sure you bring that natural.
The green
Make sure
pumpkin.
you bring that hardcore.
The green pumpkin.
The green. I wouldn't say chartreuse. The
Mathia.
that's a smallmouth color. If I
Spring-
got one.
I've got that chartreuse and green one. It's like a laminate.
They like the pink.
We got to go look it through the. We got to go look through my tackle bag
I got
before we
some of
leave here.
Got some of those. I got some green pumpkin with some gold flake.
What do you got? You have like 2 or 3 bags of them, right?
Yeah.
We
There's green
definitely-
pumpkin. There's green pumpkin ones.
Man,
With
I'm
all the
telling you-
gobies up there, I think we'll be able to catch some more.
Mr. Larry Payne sent us like 30 bags of Bass Munitions lures, and I swear to you, we are down to like 5. Like we have been tearing through these Bass Munitions lures, and we definitely need to get in contact with Mr. Larry Payne for some more of these fire ass baits because they have just been putting us in the money, and man, great quality. It's a good thing that beer was empty. But once again, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching Bass and Beer Radio. Catch us live Friday at 8 p.m. Tony has something else to say.
The outro. Y'all should know who this is, but that's been another episode of Tackle Talk Tuesdays. We appreciate everybody coming in. That definitely hurt his head a lot more. But we'll see everybody on Friday. We'll see everybody.